All set to go then for the third practice session. A 15-minute delay to proceedings, but we are underway now for 3 hours of running here at the Circuit de la Sarthe in France for the 24 hours of Le Mans. Hello everybody, 3 hours ahead of us then. Free practice 3 will start 2:45 local time in around about 30 seconds as well. We've had a delay, a small delay to proceedings due to a issue on the track, but we are good to go, and in a few seconds time.
Pit lane exit will open in exactly 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is now open. Free practice has started.
Eduardo Freitas gives us the command, and we are underway for 3 more hours of this session. The JB Motorsports team are with you. Will be a mixture of the two throughout this one. As you can see, we've now got race control messages in operation as well, so we will be able to keep you up to date fully with what is happening out here on the circuit. So that is the best news. Cars venture out onto the track, and all 62 will get the opportunity. Don't forget, some of them are already locked into their grid positions because we've decided the first half of the qualifying format. So we'll have Hyperpole coming up later on this afternoon, and then about a 20-minute break before we go in for the 1 hour free practice session in the evening. It all ends around about 11 o'clock British summer time, midnight over there in France. Okay, let's check in then with our commentary team, and we'll be up to date throughout the session.
Ilwin taking you down towards turn 1 past the pit straight. So as the cars head down this way now, you've got more of a headwind than you had yesterday. So you can see the trees blowing around. It's very gusty out there. So that's another thing for all of the drivers and teams to have to deal with.
We should see back into action very shortly. And indeed, as I speak, I can see it on its outlap. The 63 Mercedes-AMG. Well, it's the 63 Mercedes-AMG, but it's not the same one that we saw prior to Stephen Grove's substantial accidents at Dunlop.
At least for the drivers and the team that didn't make it through into Hyperpole, the only silver lining to it all is that you can now 100% focus on the race.
Yeah.
Like the car 7 that we watch on the screen now. They didn't make it through the Hyperpole. Their job's easy now. Just focus fully on the setup for the race. And you know what? It might actually pay dividends, because sometimes the excitement of qualifying, particularly this season, we have a new format. I'll let you explain that in more detail, Graham. But the new format means that you're even more, there's a better chance, because there's more genuine performance these days with less traffic out there. There's more of a chance to get excited and focus on what could be effectively pole position. So at least for the drivers that didn't make it through, you can just be focusing wholeheartedly on car setup for the race instead. Expecting to hear from the Aston Martin of De Angelis, but does not seem to be coming through at the moment. Obviously, that car, because of the Porsche number 6, is being disqualified from the qualifying session for the car being underweight, has promoted that number 009 into the first round, at least, of the Hyperpole session. A great lap by Marcus Sorensen yesterday, and now De Angelis at the wheel.
You were saying about focusing on the race, and you also mentioned that number 6 Porsche, which will start from 21st position on this grid. With thanks to our good friends from down under, David Greenhalgh, doing a bit of number crunching, the lowest position on the starting grid in the last 62 runnings of this race that the car has won this race from is 19th.
Well,
that happened once in 1991, the Mazda.
That means that the number 7 Toyota is well in with the shots there. Because they're going to start 16, so they've got 24 hours to pass 15 cars.
Stats are there to be broken.
Now then, looking at the 46 BMW, Ahmed Al-Hati went really well in this car in qualifying yesterday, put them right at the top of the pile in LMGT3, while Hypercar were out on their own, 21 cars on track, LMP2 and LMGT3 were out in a mixed session, but actually the issue was more with red flags than traffic, I think, for most of the drivers. But Ahmed Al Hati did a great job. So the bronze drivers, again, Graham, different format here. The bronze drivers had to go in qualifying yesterday in LMGT3.
Yes, he did.
The top 12 cars that move through into Hyperpole Part 1,
yes,
those will be mandatory silver drivers.
No, not mandatory, but very likely. So you can, if you want, run the bronze driver, but it's highly unlikely you'll do that if what you're looking to do is to make the cut, because you would expect the silver drivers to be quicker. There he is, one of the heroes of yesterday, Ahmed Al Hati. But the rule for all three classes today in the Hyperpole 1 and 2 is there must be a different driver in each session for those cars that make it through. So the time in session 2 later will be set by a different driver to the time in session 1.
Which explains why a number of teams, unusually in qualifying, stopped midway through and changed driver, even if they didn't change
They absolutely
tyres.
did. We saw
so both drivers had a shot, yeah.
Indeed. So they've heard, they felt the car in those conditions. That's, I would presume, exactly why we saw that.
Now then, in terms of overall pace, aside from qualifying, because qualifying is lovely, but it doesn't necessarily win you races, the first free practice session, another 3-hour session, 38 on top of the pile. Cadillac Hertz Team Jota actually set the fastest lap in the qualifying session. No, it was the 12 car set the fastest lap, but Cadillac looking very strong ahead of last year's winners, the 50 Ferrari and the number 6 Porsche that was excluded from qualifying yesterday for being underweight. But in the second free practice going into the evening, number 8 Toyota, quickest of all, 3 minutes 26.1 compared to a 3:25.1 in the earlier session. So the number 8 Toyota shows that both cars have got pace. And Toyota, the way they operate the car, Anthony, is their single biggest strength. It's not that the car is faster than anything else, it's just that they know it so well, they know what it likes, they know what it does to the tyres, and they operate it as close to the limit as humanly possible.
They do, but other teams are certainly catching up. Here's one of the teams that, apart from the hiccup yesterday, of course, with the weight anomaly with the car number 6, but collectively as a team, car crew as well, Porsche Penske are quickly catching up with the operational side of Toyota and also Ferrari. Of course, Ferrari won every single race so far in the World Endurance Championship. Yes, Le Mans is part of the World Endurance Championship, a massive part. So it's important, if you're going for a World Championship, to have a good Le Mans. Of course, if you win it, then you can pretty much forget about the championship anyway. It's such a standalone event in many ways that your year's effectively done if you win this race. But everyone wants to have it all. But if you don't win this race, you at least need to walk away with a good handful of points.
Well, the good thing, of course, about winning the race is not just that you've got the biggest crown in World Motorsport, it's also that you've got 50 great big fat points in the World Endurance Championship driver and team standings as well. So it does give you a massive boost. It is a much longer season. Of course, this is round 4 of 8. So cut across there from one of the Alpines.
That was 35, just jumping the chicane at the end of the lap, carrying in a bit too much speed. We saw a number of times, actually, 35 and 36, and Charles Malaysia on 35, both having trouble getting the car stopped as they attack that double sequence of chicanes that end the lap, the full chicane and the recordable chicane.
They actually had a brilliant car in Spa. It was the last round we had before coming here. Just a 6-hour race in endurance racing, World Endurance Championship. That is the shortest race distance we have. And the car performed brilliantly well there, challenging the front runners throughout. Strategy maybe didn't go completely to plan, but it rarely does an endurance race because of safety cars and the usual full course yellows that you always encounter. So let's see what they can do here. So far, it doesn't look like the car's got the same outright pace as it did in Spa, but the race is a whole different level of competition needed and requirements from the car as well.
Now, not the one we're on board with, 35, but 36, the other blue Alpine, has finished in 3rd place, both in Spa and in Imola. So it is absolutely on pace, and so too is BMW. The BMW, run by Team WRT, is right on the money. They've been in the mix with both 15 and 20 car. They've qualified. The 15 car qualified 2nd and 3rd in Qatar and Imola, and the number 20 car finished 2nd in Imola from 13th on the grid, by the way. I mean, that was a rocking race from the 20 crew back in Italy.
But watch as well, these Cadillacs fastest yesterday in qualifying for the Cadillac Hertz Team Jota car, but all 4 into Hyperpole 1. They've got a sense of purpose about them, gentlemen, that's somewhat ominous. They are very hungry. It's a word you're going to be hearing a lot over the next few days. They're hungry for this. Board with Tony Giovinazzi.
Yeah, they're looking for win number 3 in a row. 51 won in 2023, 51 last year, and both would love to win again. Of course, the 3rd car in their hand, you can see they're 2nd in the timings at the moment, the number 83 car. That's the yellow, privately entered AF Corsa Ferrari. Privately funded, it's certainly very much under the factory knowledge umbrella. And that might well be a factor when it comes into the race. Now, behind them, number 6 Porsche, number 8 from Toyota, but slightly a worry to see that number 5 Porsche in the garage with lots of work going on behind it. It has now left the garage. So number 4, Nick Tandy, number 5, Michael Christensen has just left, but that's 20 minutes into a session, or 10 minutes into a session that was already 20 minutes late starting. So not quite sure what the issue was with that car. We might get a chance to hear from Bruce Schwani down in the pit lane in a little while and see what was going on. In LMP2, United Autosports number 23 car is on top of the pile. VDS Panis and Algarve Pro Racing, that's APR. So those are the top 3. It was actually Algarve Pro's 45 car that was the quicker of the 2. That was in the top 3 in qualifying yesterday.
That's quite interesting. Got Giovinazzi at the wheel, number 51 Ferrari, and he's chasing hard the car number 6, so the one that was disqualified from qualifying yesterday, and clearly looks at this point that the Ferrari's got the pace over the Porsche, but of course we don't know what they're focusing on. 51, as you could see, it was flashing away as they went through Indianapolis section of the track, flashing the Porsche and that was in front of it, maybe focusing more towards getting that balance still for Hyperpole coming up later on, whereas now, of course, car 6 is just fully focused on the race pace.
Well, you would think at this stage that both of them will be doing long run, full tanks and trying to work out economy.
You would think,
and everything else. 50 in the garage with work going on. Again, not really what you want to see on Thursday of race week at Le Mans. 20 is in as well for adjustments. Now, if you make anything other than a very minor adjustment or cleaning the screen and the brake ducts, you do push the car into the garage because you can then use as many mechanics as you like, whereas you can only have 4 people working on the car on the pit apron. So it's not necessarily a sign of a major disaster when the car is wheeled back into the garage, because actually it just allows you to do even relatively simple jobs a lot more efficiently. So Ferrari fastest in Hypercar, United Autosport fastest in LMP2, and it is the United Autosport McLarens 1-2 in LMGT3.
Yeah, not a bad opening part to this session then as well. We knew that there would be some ups and downs about this situation as well, in terms of exactly what was going to be different and not different between the two of the sessions as well. But so far so good in the opener. Double yellow was at Marshall Point as well, number 19 for a brief time, but that has since come out, which is I think sort of best news all around at the moment. Let's check in with our team at Radio Le Mans.
The 33 TF Corvette out on the circuit. This is another car which was having problems earlier on, as Ryan Marine was telling us. A gearbox oil fluid leak, or a gearbox fluid leak, was the problem that occurred to that car meant that it wasn't able to participate in the qualifying session yesterday, and neither then, because it took quite a long time to fix, was it able to appear in the night qualifying session from 10 through till midnight. They have now got the car going, and as I say, Johnny Edgar is at the wheel of the number 33, bringing it round right now. The only other one which we failed to see, which I failed to mention, is another Iron Lynx car, but it's the LMP2 entry from Iron Lynx, the Proton Iron Lynx combination entrant, which is due to be driven by Maceo Capietto, who we heard from yesterday, and it was fascinating listening to the teenager, clearly enjoying himself, and was very coherent as well in his second language when speaking to Ryan yesterday, sharing with Jonas Reed and Richard de Guerras, as he did last year, in fact, when he made his debut here. He was only 18 then, and Jonas Reed, you'll recognise the surname maybe, is the son of Christian Reed, who is the man who currently runs Proton Competition, which I say it in that way because the company itself was founded by Christian Reed's father, Gerald Reed, who again was a Le Mans enthusiast back in the day, raced at Le Mans himself, and as I say, established Proton Competition, which has now been taken over by Christian, and the family line continues with Jonas at the wheel. Anyway, the car number 9, we're still waiting to see it.
I went quiet for a little while there because I was scribbling away at some notes, having realised them not at the time, that in qualifying yesterday for Hypercar, all 3 Ferraris actually got through 2 different drivers within qualifying. I couldn't understand why there were 24 different times, because I've got the individual driver times, which Alcamel produce, and actually the 51 Ferrari saw a bit of time from Antonio Giovinazzi, who was quickest, but his teammates Alessandro Pierguidi was in the 51 during qualifying. The 50 car, Antonio Fuoco and Niklas Nielsen did laps, and the 83 Ferrari, Robert Kubica and Yifei Ye had a spell. So it's all about the Ferraris. Everybody else chose to just use one driver, but that's interesting because there's nothing to stop you doing that in Hyperball. Exactly,
and in typical Ferrari style, it's kind of pitching one driver against the other, and dear old Enzo would have been proud of them, but effectively setting up a bit of competition to see, okay, who wants to do the qualifying, let's just see who is quicker. But clearly Ferrari confident enough that they could get their cars through into the Hyperpole sessions.
Let's head to the pit lane for a CrowdStrike pit report with Nick.
Today with 6 sets total, and most teams using the medium tyre as he's on right now. So he's just saying, as they've got older, they're out of balance, so next time we put older tyres on, maybe think about rebalancing them before we put them on.
Seeing by the front of the number 5 car, Kevin van der Linde having a bit of a moment at the exit at Set Rouge, very dusty exit to the 46 car.
Well, the other thing you talked about, Anthony, the rain that we had in the early hours, well, not early hours, 6, 7, 8 o'clock this morning. There's also still lots of tyre debris, and actually one of the things that unbalances wheels a lot is if you run out wide and pick up a big lump of rubber. And you won't necessarily feel that being stuck to the hot slick, but it will definitely be like losing balance weight. So suggesting to the team they might think about balancing the tyres. I think possibly the tyre guy does balance the tyres as well as clean them off. I think that was...
You'd like to hope they would.
Yeah.
But,
a team of this calibre, yeah.
But you never know. Maybe if they've only got 15 laps on, maybe they wouldn't have been rebalanced.
Well, same, by the way, as we watch this glorious super slow-mo, the Porsche. Penske looking for their very first Le Mans win. And Porsche looking for 20th.
And still looking for their 700th pole. Still waiting.
Yes,
bated
indeed.
breath. And it's possible because they have 2 dogs in the fight later on this evening. So it is possible. It doesn't look likely, it has to be said, but who knows? Le Mans is a fickle place. It's actually very humid as well now. What looked like clear blue skies from about 11 a.m. have sort of clouded over again. So beyond the bounds of possibility, we might get a little bit of changeable weather.
So the number 6 in the garage, number 5 continues at pace. Currently the number 5, 15th quickest in the hands of Michael Christensen.
It's a small vibration, like feels like it's faster than the tires are rotating. Really small, fast vibration.
Yeah, and that's coming from
Hearing his voice.
Christensen in the Porsche. Just quickly as well, adding to that, we've got Van der Linde with a warning flag for track limits has been displayed out there on our timing tower. As things currently stand. The Ferrari, of course, on top at the moment. Is it me, or is that timing tower not as secure as we thought it would be? Let's just adjust that. Yeah, I thought not. Isn't that weird? It's cut off the T. We'll get that sorted. Either way, flags out for a warning out there.
You're numbed to that feeling, but in a free practice session, you've just come from qualifying yesterday, where the car felt as close to perfect as it's ever going to be on new tyres a lot of the time. As frantic work goes on in front of that number 6 Porsche.
He's not holding you back too much at the moment. He's just gone 4th with that last lap. Michael Christensen, what is that, a 10th off the number 6 car, but undergoing attention to the front end.
The app actually, sorry Martin, the app actually updated a set of tyre if I have. So he started with 15 lap old tyres, then pitted and put another set of old tyres on that's only got 2 laps on them, and now 3 or 4 because he's been circulating. So that's probably why he's picked up a bit of speed in these last couple of laps.
I wonder if that was the dampers they were looking at, or whether they've got an issue with the pedal box. It seemed like it could be in either direction. On board with Le Mans resident, or Le Mans born, Sebastian Bourdais, no longer resident in France, lives in the US. The 3 Bs in this car, Mighty 38, Bourdais, Button, Bamber. Makes it easy even for me to remember the car lineup. But it wasn't the fastest of the caddies. Fastest of the caddies was a lap from Alex Lynn in the other gold Hertz Team Jota car, number 12. But all 4 Cadillacs made it through into this evening's hyperpole. So all 4 of them were in the top 15. And there is plenty of potential in this V-Series R.
2 cars, by the way, you haven't seen with 20 minutes plus into this session. One is the AWA Corvette. The other one is the 50 Ferrari. That car not so far behind.
Yes, all day when you talk about car, it's all 4 tyres. The whole car, the body slip of the car is just moving around more than it was yesterday, and that's to be expected with the rain that we had, the wind shift that we've had, and you're out there on older tyres as well. I mean, yes, they had the nighttime session focusing more towards the race balance, but just an information for the team, passing on information that the car basically doesn't feel like it's got the grip that I had yesterday. It's not one end of the car moving more than the other, so its balance is just sliding,
not gripping so much, and that might be that. Yeah, the worn-inness, the rubbered-inness of the track is lower than it was yesterday. And again, as you say, wind's changed 180 degrees. Now, 50 Ferrari is out of the garage and is about to head out on track. So that's one more car, which will leave us with just
Fidani and the AWA car that's not so far been out today.
Well, let's hear from the Ferrari team.
Okay, mate, so the wind is what we saw together at the pit wall. Track is about 40 degrees. We can move to P2. We will have to do an engine warm-up in the pit lane. We are really cold.
Well, luckily, not the sort of engine warm-up that you need to fire up an F1 car at Davidson. Otherwise, the session would be over before they got running. But nevertheless, a late push out of the garage, they were definitely dealing with something that carried them a long way into the session before they're even ready to fire it up.
Yeah, most important thing is they're out there now, and if anything, I think these days you have ample amount of time, almost too much time. It seems that we had qualifying yesterday, then another free practice session. Now it's another free practice session. They had a session on Sunday as well. The weather has been on their side. We've had some red flags, some full course yellows, but we've seen a lot worse in the past. So they've had a lot of track time, a lot of track running. So maybe they feel like they're in a fortunate enough position to be working on more of the details of the car. It hasn't really hampered their running too badly. Just 25 minutes gone now of this 3-hour session, and all the drivers by this stage in the week, you're fully in the groove. If anything, this point, this is the most dangerous part, because the track's changing all the time. You can start to detune your car from where it was. Say, you heard the radio message from board A. What do? Do the team suddenly panic? And you start trying to throw new setups on the car when the car was actually pretty good yesterday. Your teammates sitting on, well, they had the fastest lap in qualifying, easily got through the hyperpole. Do you dare tinker with the car? Should you? It's tempting to. And so it can be a dangerous session. Almost sitting in the garage and limiting your time can often be a blessing in disguise here.
I'd 100% agree with you, with the exception of this morning's rain, which has moved the racetrack. And then you're always chasing the setup of the car to match the racetrack, and the racetrack evolves. And now it's sort of unevolved a bit.
Yeah, but what you need to do is preempt where the racetrack's going to be at the end, and that's the trick in setting your car up. So you're not setting it up for a green track. That's why I say it's this dangerous territory now, because if you panic and change your car at this point, come the end of the race Sunday, and we're likely to have a completely dry race, what the forecast suggested, you don't want to be dialing in too much understeer balancing your car now, because the chances are that it's going to swing completely around by the rate, and you'll have even more understeer by the end of it, because usually when you drop the grip, you get more oversteer on this track.
We're watching the number 93 car, Hans Schoenig-Fern, at the moment props up the hypercar order. 20 cars having set a time, still waiting for a time from the 50 Ferrari. He's 4 seconds off the time set by the other Peugeot. Malte Jakobsen aboard the 94, but principally it's because he keeps getting track limits. I think we've had the last 2 laps where he's done better times, not fundamentally better times, but better times, both of which he's lost track limits. So looks to me like those 2 cars are on fundamentally different work plans today.
We're on the same age tyres at the moment, at least, and they've both done a run on old tyres to begin with, boxed it, and then they've changed tyres with another old set of both. Well, one's got 8 laps on the, and the other car's got 5 laps. So yeah, it's pretty much the same program in terms of tyre compound and age at this point anyway.
In qualifying yesterday, the Peugeots were 2.3 and 2.6 seconds away from the fastest time. Malte Jakobsen's best lap so far is 3.5 away, and Jean-Eric Verne 7 seconds away. So closing the gap in race trim doesn't seem to be happening. It seems to be a yawning chasm opening up. Mind you, number 7 Toyota is also over 6 seconds behind the fastest lap of the 51 Ferrari.
And that's with an improvement last time around from Mike Conway.
And it's actually still 4 seconds slower than the number 8 Toyota as well. And so you've got to compare like with like. Why are the 2 Toyotas so separated? Why are they so disparate in their lap times? If you look at the Cadillacs, where are they? They are 5th fastest, 7th fastest, 9th fastest, and 13th fastest. So they're sort of all in roughly the same groupage.
Well, the number 7 Toyota, who's definitely just focusing on the race, they started this session with old tyres that had already done 24 laps.
Which is 2 stints.
It's a double stint, and they're still out there pounding around. They've already done 5 laps on that set of tyres, and the number 8 car started with only 4-lap old tyres. So that explains the difference between the 2 Toyotas at least. And then you've got the front 3 at the moment. Well, 51, who's 6/10 ahead of everyone, their best lap time. 51 started with a brand new set of mediums, as did the number 83 Ferrari, and also the number 6 Porsche. So the top 3 of this session all on brand new tyres. There's 1.7 seconds separating them.
Improvement there from Nico Veroni, young Argentine driver in the 99 Proton competition Porsche. Nico, a class winner here in a GT Corvette, moving on into hypercar now in one of 2 privately run cars in this 21 car class. We'll listen in to what's going on for Nico.
For your info, we have a pickup under here on the high speed, like it's a rule, and the Porsche is going under theory now.
Right under steering, he's saying he's just gone 3 seconds quicker on that last lap. So he's finding a little bit more pace. Car moves up the order to 14th quickest.
And understeering in the fast corners, it's probably better than oversteering in the fast corners, Anthony, but...
It is, and it is for now, while the track's low grip, with visibly less rubber than what we had yesterday, just into that braking zone, at least into the first chicane. And that's going to go against you, your balance through the high speed, as well as the wind change. That's probably the biggest factor here. So these aerodynamic cars, the hypercars, they're going to rely more on the downforce, the big wings and the huge floor that they have to generate the grip at high speed. If the wind suddenly is behind the car, it can really change the balance, your perceived balance inside it. So many drivers apparently complaining of the same thing, understeer through the higher speed section, particularly the Porsche curves. And 99 Porsche, by the way, did start this session as well on old tyres and has continued on to do another 6 laps on a set that went on this morning with already just 3 laps on them. So there are definite cars out there working on an older set. So you, like I said before, 6 total sets, doesn't matter which compound, you can mix and match as you please in the World Endurance Championship. That includes Le Mans. It's not like Formula 1 where you have to stick to the same compound. You can mix and match. If you want to put one hard right front on and the rest soft, go ahead, fill your boots. You can do that as long as you don't use more than 24 individual tyres in the session between all practice sessions and qualifying. Hyperpole 1 and 2 is a different thing. You've got 3 sets to take you through both of those sessions.
Glorious power slide there for Campietto.
Less power slide and more. Oh, yeah, I've got that one, you little fighter.
He did indeed. They had a torrid time in qualifying yesterday, but he's fighting the number 9 car around today.
And actually 9th in LMP2, as you say, they didn't get anywhere close to being in the top 12 out of the 17 LMP2 cars in the field, but they are more than midway up the order at the moment. So, yeah, hopefully they'll be able to engineer that into more of a race trim.
At the moment, by the way, in the other 2 classes than hypercar, United Autosports top both, and in LMP3 it's both the McLarens at the top of LMGT3 at the moment.
Yep.
59 ahead of 95. 30th anniversary of McLaren's win here in 1995.
And for those who are at the track, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 McLaren F1 GTRs in the museum.
Indeed.
Including the winning Ueno Clinic car, the Harrods car that finished in 3rd place, 2nd in GT.
And look for some exciting news from McLaren before we go racing on Saturday. Watch your favoured motorsport news pages.
On board with PJ Hyatt. Spike the Dinosaur, the livery of PJ's LMP2 car. See that Rexy, the T-Rex, which is the colours of their Porsche GT3 car, is enjoying a little holiday in Paris on the way down here. So we'll be seeing Spike the Dinosaur and Rexy undoubtedly on the grid on Saturday morning. And that car very quick in qualifying and race trim.
During the race.
Yeah. So the allocation for the tyres triggered as you leave the pit lane, basically. And that is tracked from that point onwards, and you can use those tyres again, but you can't use tyre 57 and 58 that might be in the back of the garage, you know, towards the end of the race, towards the end of your allocation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's made simple anyway, because you probably will have used your 14, well, depending on when you're double stinting them, I suppose. But, okay, so it's much more fluid than I had ever considered.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a case, I can't remember when, and I can't even remember if it was at Le Mans, but there was a WEC race where a team did go over their allocation, and people say, well, how can that happen? But it was precisely because they got the tyres ready and hadn't counted themselves how many they were using.
Yeah, very easily done, I would imagine, but it's hard to find a kind of get-out clause once you have made that misdemeanor. But it does mean that you can make your decision very last minute in terms of which tyres you want to go on to next as the conditions change, and that's really dependent on weather. I'm not just talking necessarily rainfall, just the amount of heat that we might get Saturday night and into Sunday morning. The René Binder Bent Viscal Proton car being worked on in the garage at this stage, so that car hopefully is not too far away from leaving, one of the LMP2s, of which 12 progressed to the Hyperpole session. So I'm talking about the number 11 Proton competition car, which is actually the first to have not made Hyperpole 1 for the LMP2s after its 337.7 yesterday. Huge lockup for the number 7 Toyota into the Ford chicane towards the end of the lap. That was from Mike Conway.
Pushing on as always.
Too right. He's got a reputation to uphold, I suppose.
A 15-lap stint from Dries van Toor in the BMW M8 Hybrid. He's just come into the pits at the completion of 10 laps. Sebastian Bourdais is also on a long stint at the moment. We were speculating at the start who was going to be doing long stints. Well, there's 3 cars, actually a few more, who are all doing long stints. As I say, Dries van Toor has just brought the BMW number 15 into the pits. The number 38 Cadillac Hertz Team Jota Cadillac B-Series R is still out in Sebastian Bourdais' hands and has just gone through and completed 10 laps and gone on to his 11th. Sebastian Buemi is out in the number 8 Toyota GR010 Hybrid, and he is also now on the 11th lap of his stint. And then back to the Cadillac Hertz Team Jota, because Norman Nato in the number 12 car is in the middle of a long stint. He's on the 10th lap of his stint, so we're going to have to try and keep in touch with the pit crew to see if there are pit reporters to see if
leads the Aero by TF car. Spike, the LMP2 Dragon, the 199, and the Edec Sport 28. That's the 123 in LMP2, and it is still United Autosports 1-2. The 2 McLarens, 59 from 95, from the Team WRT 46 car, with Kelvin van der Linde still at the wheel of the car that we'll later see Valentino Rossi aboard.
And as Mike Conway pits in Toyota number 7, yes, it's red and white, not black, as you've seen for the last 2 seasons. This is sort of evoking the TS020, the Toyota GT1 car that came close to winning Le Mans 2 years in a row in the 90s.
Yeah, that's this is the 98 tribute livery. The 99 car far more solid red. Yep. And that 1998 car is on site here, has been one of a number of heritage pairings we've seen on track. Trouble for one of the Vista of Corsa cars.
And that is at Marshall's Post 35.
That's the Ford chicane.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So that may need assistance.
Yeah, you can see the rubber lines just on the penultimate corner. Just spun it round on the left.
It's the 54. So that is the 54 car, and that car has who at the wheel at the moment?
Yeah, Thomas Floor.
It's Tom.
Yeah.
And that is properly beached, isn't it? So not going to get out of there under its own steam. It's going to need, here it comes, the digger to pick him up.
That's what happened here.
Yeah, so just come out of Recruitment and lost the rear. We're going to have a slow zone in effect as well at Marshall Point 32 and Marshall Point 33.
Sort of minimum of our official interventions where you impose an 80km/h limit for part of the racetrack rather than a full course yellow, which brings the entire track down to 80 k's. Because it's such a long track, you could deal with little areas like that and tidy up and then leave the rest of the track as green.
Hopefully he can get that, he will be able to get out of the gravel. I hope he can get back on track, but he will need to come around for the full lap. He's missed pits in.
The only downside, of course, of as elegant as a system it seems to only effectively go full course yellow speeds through one section of the circuit, you can lose up to a minute of time in the race if you're the unlucky one that gets caught in a full court in a slow zone twice, as opposed to one car that you're racing against that's further down the track or further in front of you that lucks into not getting through it twice, only falling victim of it once. Yeah. You wave goodbye to a minute of time in the race, and that can happen multiple times. So that's the only problem with having these slow zones, that it's not a completely fair system for everyone out there during the race.
It also has a slight history of accidents happening with cars coming into slow zones and slowing at different speeds. Think back to last year, there was a big accident going down through the S's. This is the view from right behind in the Alpine. See the Alpine driver, which way is he going? In theory, you always aim for the spinning car and hope that he's spun out of the way before you get there, but...
Clattered the curb, didn't he, with the unloaded wheel, and power in, and around it went, and no grip to get out of there. And what you don't want to do is burn out the clutch trying.
There's Jensen Button at the wheel, the number 38 Cadillac, run by Jota.
How many Formula 1 XF1 drivers in the field, Anthony?
There are 19 XF1 drivers that have raced at least in one race.
Yep.
Most of them are in hypercar, and you've got Lotterer, of course, in the LMP2, who raced where, in what?
Caterham.
Well, I don't...
Caterham at Spa.
Oh, hang on a minute. Where are we? 41 minutes into the session, Bruce Ioani has finally piped up. Not when we wanted to know where the Ferrari was, not when we wanted to know why the Porsche wasn't leaving the pit lane, but he can tell us that it was a Caterham at Spa. Yeah. Down in the pit lane. We'll get a little bit more on Travails for some of our cars, I guess, in a little while. Bodywork coming off, and this won't be a major job, but why is the bodywork coming off on the apron rather than in the garage? They're taking the engine cover back into the garage, and being pushed back in is, I can't remember which of the, it's the damaged 63, the now undamaged 63 Mercedes. As it says Grove on the front, so that's the car driven by Stephen and Brenton Grove.
Yeah, this is the car with the replacement chassis after a significant shunt yesterday from Stephen.
So the only father-son combination in the field, well, sort of. Well, there's one at Iron Link's Proton as well.
Plus there's one at WTR Cadillac.
Yes, there is. And in both those cases, the father is now an elderly former racing driver. Christian Reed will hunt me down and kill me for that. And it's the sons who are racing. Jonas Reed in the 9 car, and both of Wayne Taylor's boys in the 101 Caddy. Oh, brake change as well. Right, is it Group C suddenly? This is force of habit from Wayne Taylor. Right, change the brakes. No, we don't do that anymore, boss. But it's a full disc and caliper change now. Interesting. That's not actually on the Wayne Taylor car, is it? That's the Chipboard Racing number 90 Porsche. So this is the extra Manti Porsche in LMGT3.
This is the car that was added to the order through championship success of Altair in the Asia Le Mans Series.
And this is something that obviously you have to fine-tune for the race as well as the mechanics. You have to be replacing, but there's a very strong chance you will be having to make a pit stop like that at some point in the GTs.
The most experienced man in this race. First raced here, Sebastian Bourdais, in 1999.
I thought you were going cheeky there. I thought you were going to say 23.
I think it's his 18th start here.
It should be his 18th start indeed.
So we have had numerous drivers with more starts, but of the current crop,
It's got to be one of his best ever chances to win in this race.
well, he's had a win in GT Pro,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
he's
outright.
second overall
An outright
twice.
win,
But absolutely right.
His first race was in 99 in the GTS category.
I would suggest to you, what is that hanging down?
Is that a bit of... Well, see, if that was a classic car, that would just be a sagging roofliner, but...
Unlikely to be the case here.
Yeah, not sure what it is on Johnny Edgar's TF Sport Corvette. And again, that was a car that came very late out to the pit lane. They had a problem yesterday in free practice 2, where did they do any laps in free practice 2? They had a gearbox shaft leak. They did 0 laps in FP2. So not only didn't they make hyperpole, but and I wonder whether the leaky gearbox and the failure to make hyperpole were not necessarily unrelated. They're a long way behind on track time. So Johnny Edgar drifting the car through the Esses de la Chapelle.
Well, the fact there was such a big gap between the sister car and the 33 tends to indicate something was awry with that run. Ben Keating suiting up and getting ready to go. He was not a happy Ben yesterday.
No, and he was at a loss to explain why they weren't quick, or at least as quick as Tom Van Rompuy in the 81 car.
Which, here's the thing, he takes his racing as seriously as any pro does. And Davison, one thing a racing driver doesn't like is when you can't explain why you're not going as quickly as you think you should.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he threw his hands up in the air to the camera, actually, didn't he, after the session, just to say what was that all about? Why didn't he think he minded the words just slow? But I'm sure it wasn't him. We know Ben Keating's got the speed, one of the best bronze drivers out there, and can certainly hold his own against Tom Van Rompuy, who's, of course, a great driver as well. We've seen some shining results from him in the past, but Ben Keating, time and time again, has the performance to match him and better him on many occasions. So, and he certainly knows his way around this racetrack. So, it's a bit like the Nick de Vries car 7 in Toyota. His struggles yesterday. Sometimes there's no answer, and that is in itself the worst thing. If you know that you messed up a few corners and that's why you didn't get a lap, it's almost better to take than not knowing, just being slow. That's the worst situation.
Now, I was going to see actually what his best lap time was compared to the 81 car, but I can't, because they were all deleted. He did not officially set a lap time at all in qualifying, because he was speeding in the pit lane at the end of the session. There is the 81 car. I beg your pardon, there is the 33 car. So the two Corvettes are effectively yellow and black, but 33 has got a yellow roof and a wind sticker in the front, and the 81 has got more black on the roof. This is 54.
Coming back. Yeah, this is coming back after its gravelly moments.
So, of course, he's had to do a whole lap because they would have got it going back on the racetrack from out of the final corner.
Was that evidence there of some metal shaving?
E-Series R for Fred Vesti, the Danish driver, and there's another Dane in 6th position, which is the 15 BMW from the Belgian squad WRT, although a factory outfit from BMW. And Kevin Magnussen is in 6th position. Then 7th fastest is the number 38 Jensen Button-driven Cadillac Hertz Team Jota V-Series R. 8th place, the first of the Toyotas for Sebastian Buemi in his GR010. Another Cadillac in 9th fastest position, the 12 from Hertz Team Jota. That's Norman Nato, who was last at the wheel, although the car's currently in the pits. 328.7 and a 329.1 from the third and final Porsche Penske Motorsport 963. So Nick Tandy in car number 4, although that car is also now in the pits. In LMP2, this is where we've got the Pro-Ams and the non-Pro-Ams, depending on whether you've got a bronze or not. United Autosports number 23, which is a Pro-Am driving combination, but Ollie Jarvis is very much a platinum graded driver by the FIA. He's done a 337.436 to be quickest of 17 cars, ahead of the AO by TF Spike the Dragon PJ Hyatt-driven Pro-Am entry, that's 199, and that car's time a 3:38.6. 3:38.7 for EDEX Sports number 28, Paul Lafargue, which sits in the pit lane. The 48 VDS Panis racing car of Esteban Masson's done a 3:38.8. Fifth fastest is the 22 United Autosports LMP2 for Renger van der Zande, and in sixth position it's the 37 CLX Pure Racing car of Tristan Vautier, 3:40.2, but that car's also receiving some work, maybe a driver change in the pit lane. Let's hope it's not there for too long. LMGT3, the fastest car is a McLaren, the 59 United Autosports car of Gregoire Saucet, 3:56.932, ahead of Sean Galeale's similar car, also from United, number 95, which has done a 3:57.0. It's a WRT BMW number 46, third quickest, with a certain Valentino Rossi driving it now, 3:57.2. In fourth position within class, it's the 92 Manthey First Form Porsche for Ryan Hardwick. And sixth fastest, the 81 Corvette from TF Sport of Rui Andrade. Those are the positions. We have 2 hours and 10 minutes still to go.
Yes, that's the thing in LMP2 that all the teams can have, because it's a spec car. So what the teams do with the Cosworth electronics that they run, you can press the starter button, but the engine won't fire up until the wheels are on the ground because of a regulation. You're not allowed to fire up the engine while the car's in the air. So Théo Pourchaire, of course, he knows the car quite well, but maybe not the nuances there. And he's pressed the button and said it's taken an eternity to get going, and sometimes when that happens, it's better to just lift off the button and press it again while the wheels are on the ground, and it starts up faster.
And it would have just been that what you want to do is the instant the car drops, hit the button, and he's just preempted that a fraction.
Well, it's supposed to be faster by sitting there with your wheels in the air, pressing the starter button.
So that when it drops, it will go.
Exactly.
But,
But sometimes it doesn't.
Outfoxed it. Saw a picture there of an elderly fan watching in the Aston Martin garage. Did you recognise him?
No, who's this one?
Barrichello R.
Oh, yeah.
Proud. Well, that's a reference back to a famous caption in the British newspaper of Nicky Lauda in the back of the Mercedes garage watching over what Lewis Hamilton was doing, while an elderly fan watches in the background. So, have you seen a prouder father than Rubens Barrichello?
Well, we had him in the booth, didn't we, in Qatar? Rubens, of course, raced here in 2017, the first year of this Formula 4 LMP2 in the then terrifying Dallara. And in a straight line, that thing, because the aero was, how can we put it, slightly off, was faster than the LMP1 cars.
Is there a racing dad out there, as a young driver yourself, that you want to listen to any more than Rubens Barrichello?
No, it's hard to imagine one, isn't it? I mean, what will JB be like? What will Jensen be like? You know, if his kids end up going karting, what will Anthony Davidson be like if his son goes karting or his daughter goes karting? I mean, it's a hard, and hats off to John Button, because he was in Jensen's junior career sort of carrot and stick. Reading Jensen's book about him, you know, it was making sure that Jensen was aware just how much you needed to sacrifice if you wanted to do this. You couldn't mess around. See how I skillfully crowbar this promotional mention into the conversation. It's Father's Day this weekend. Yes, kids, it's Father's Day this weekend. And for Kota, which is not our next stop, the stop after that on the WEC calendar, they've got a Father's Day offer running from June the 7th through to the 21st, and it's a buy one get one free. Take your dad for free. Take your dad for free, because
what about that for a segue? That's brilliant.
So, Eduardo, if you're listening, I know you're not paying to get in, well, you sort of are, but you can take your dad for absolutely nothing whatsoever if you buy a ticket. And of course, the relevant is this is the car that Eduardo Barrichello is driving as his dad watches on. No.
Car's not running as smoothly as well. Now, that is the other LMGT3 Aston Martin. This one is run by Racing Spirit of Le Mans. That's a lake in Switzerland, not Le Mans spelt badly and pronounced.
Lake Geneva.
Is it? Okay,
Yes.
fine. So that is a lake in Switzerland. But the other car is the blue Aston Martin Vantage. Car number 27, Ian James is running that under his own Heart of Racing banner. Of course, it is Heart of Racing, THOR, the Heart of Racing, which is running the two Aston Martin Valkyries as well. Why didn't they just call it Spirit of Genève?
Because they don't call it Lake Geneva in Geneva.
Because they wanted you to have to justify it every single time you refer to that car as Spirit of Le Mans.
Well, because otherwise people think I'm more of an idiot than I actually am.
That would be really very difficult.
Ladies and gentlemen, the late Graham Goodwin. I'm not dead, just you wait. You'll go to the foot of our stairs. So, looking in LMGT3 then, the two...
Was there a touch there between those two?
Yes.
I think they did actually make contact.
Toyotas are hitting things all over the place. That's a 21 Ferrari. Now, that car... in fact, neither of the Vista AF Corsa Ferraris really producing the pace that I was expecting to see from them. Having said that, obviously, one of them's probably going to win the race, but they've been super competitive. They've been the car to beat all year in LMGT3. They're not here. So McLaren, WRT, Manthey with their 92 Porsche, TF Sport with the 81, Corvette, Kessel Racing's Ferrari. I mean, all of these cars and a lot of, you know, a number of the newcomers are in front of our points leaders. I'm really quite surprised by that. 10th place in LMGT3 on race pace. Not sure that's a happy place to be, even for a Vista AF Corsa Ferrari.
TNT Sports, powered.
Matt Bell is out in the session, and the only one now remaining to set a time is the 88 Proton Ford Mustang, which has been out in Dennis Olsen's hands, but hasn't yet completed a lap time for us.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We're very shortly going to have an hour completed in this 3-hour session. In the regulations, 2 times 3-hour session. So that was yesterday from 2 o'clock and today from 2:45. And then later tonight, there's just a single hour, as you've been saying, for the night practice, coupled with yesterday evening's 2 hours as well. Let's get to another CrowdStrike pit report, though. This time, different voice with Ryan Marine. You've found somebody from United Autosports.
I have indeed, and he's the pace setter so far in the LMP2 class. Just got out of the car, did Oliver Jarvis. And Daniel Schneider got in, the number 23 from United Autosports. So tell us about how the car is feeling. The timesheets would indicate it's pretty fast, but what can you tell us, having just been in the car?
Yeah, I think you know, the timesheets make it look good, but actually in the car it's quite difficult. I think with the rain this morning and the heavy winds, it's very hard to get a read on the car. The balance is all over the place, so very low grip out there. But I think you know, we know the gap's not that big to the competition. It probably flatters us at the moment, but you know, we're just working away on our own schedule and trying to improve the car.
You and the team both have been here a fair few times with this type of car over the years. So when you have rain in the morning and you have the high winds, these are conditions you've experienced at different times in your career. Can you anticipate how that will affect the car?
No, to be quite honest, especially here. It's such a unique track. It just changes and evolves throughout the weekend, and it doesn't always make sense. So last year, the track was really quick from the beginning, and then overnight it went 2 seconds slower for no reason. So it's very hard to predict, and that's what makes it so enjoyable and special, and it makes it difficult, especially for quali when you won't have been on the track for a couple of hours and then you need to go put down a lap.
One thing I don't know that we've asked too many folks about yet, there have been a couple of sections that have been repaved since last year. So out of 10 Rouge to the first chicane, and then the run into the Porsche curves, if I'm not mistaken. Have you noticed the change at all?
A little bit into the entry into Porsche, but I actually expected much more grip. But having said that, we're running a new tyre here this year in LMP2, and we're lacking a couple of seconds to last year. So I don't know how much of it's the tire, how much of it's the track.
It is an interesting point. The Goodyear tire that made its debut in the European Le Mans Series the last round. This is the first time, though, it's been here to Le Mans. How much of a learning process is that? And do you feel like you're on top of this tire going into the race?
I wouldn't say on top of it, but we're constantly learning and trying to understand it. But like I say, it's made even more difficult by every time you get in the car, the track's completely different.
All right, great insight as always, Ollie. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
51 has left the pit lane, but 50 in the garage. A little bit more work going on. So the access cover off over the pedal box.
Yeah, Miguel Molina aboard the car now, so they've made the driver change before taking the car into the garage.
Well, again, that's all about rehearsing for the race, isn't it? Trying to fine-tune all of that finessing. It's irrelevant if you're doing it in the garage. You need to do it on pit lane. What are we seeing here?
Here's that contact between car 22 and the BMW. Just as he pulls, trying to get back on the racing line, and boop, just touches the right front of the BMW's. No harm done, but in a moment like that, you can easily damage the bodywork, or worst case, spin yourself or the other car out and have a penalty coming your way.
Renger van der Zande aboard, the 22 from United Autosport.
Conway running aboard with him now. He's still out there, isn't he, on those... oh, no, he has done a pit stop.
Has he got fresh tyres on now?
Yeah, 4-lap old.
OK.
4-lap old, which will feel positively fresh.
So that's probably the second set that they threw at the car in qualifying last night, if they've only done 4 laps, unless they were brand new when he came out.
60 minutes done in this free practice session. Still a Ferrari 1-2, 51 from 83. Then 2 of the 3 factory Porsche Penske Motorsport 963s. The third Ferrari has made its way up the order, is back in the garage now on the hour. Then the first of the Cadillacs. This is the 311 car, 6th place in the order. BMW, the 38 Cadillac from Hertz Team Jota. The first of Toyota's number 8 car and the 12 Caddy. This number 7 Toyota, meanwhile, still somewhat lagging in terms of the overall pace. Likely on a very different strategy for this free practice session.
Well, he did have 34 laps on his tyres from before. He's pitted. He put another set of tyres on, like I said, the 4-lap old tyres. Apparently had a puncture on that set, came in and put another old set of tyres on of 4 laps, and he's currently done 3 laps on those. So they're very much looking at race pace here.
Yep.
How does the car perform on old tyres? How long can we take these medium tyres into the race? And you can see even the body language of the car, very different approach, different driving style required. Minimise the slip of the tyres as much as possible in all angles, longitudinally, laterally as well, just to try and take them as far as you can into the race. So that is the focus right now for car 7.
Just a quick word on top speeds here. We mentioned, I believe, about 347 kilometres an hour from the number 50 Ferrari just a couple of laps before it pitted. Also mentioned Rubens Barrichello being here back in 2017. I've taken a quick look back at the test day times before they adjusted the Dalaras. He was in one of 3 in LMP2, 340 kilometres an hour, and he wasn't the quickest in one of those, the fastest in one of those at the test day, 341 in an LMP2 Dallara Gibson.
It sort of puts into perspective Roger Dolce in the WM Peugeot back in Group C days, where before chicanes existed, it was Project 400 to top 400 kilometres an hour. Now, by any modern standard, that is insanely fast, and they did. All right, they blew the engine up, and it was just about trying to get the speed. That was what the whole program was about. They spent basically their entire Le Mans budget on trying to crack 400 and did it.
Yeah.
I can't even... Oh, that's number 9 now. Is that still Jonas Reed at the wheel of that car?
That is Jonas Reed.
And he's only just left the pits.
That's done at Indianapolis, isn't it?
It is.
11.
Now, has he just nosed that in, or has that made a more substantial contact? Either way, the
That could be a full course yellow for the Iron Lynx as well. It hasn't gone too deep into the barrier for it to be a red flag situation. The most we'll have is a slow zone out there at the circuit at the moment, but the worst places to happen, that is certainly the worst for it to go in, down at Indianapolis before Arnage. So the 51 Ferrari, of course, that leads the way in hypercar at the moment, but it's the LMP2 number 9 that's gone off. If we take a look at the driver tracker, let's take a look. Locks up inside front right on entry, straight off into said barrier. You see the 9s just stationary, prepared for slow zone at zone 6 at 15:49. Marshal points 20 and 21 will activate it, so we are going to go slow zone. The Iron Lynx Proton team now being told about it, but yeah, slow zone coming into effect. Sort of saw that coming, didn't we, really?
They'll be desperate to see just what the extent of the damage is to the front of that car. Hopefully, it will just be a nose change.
Again, a team and crew of drivers that run regularly in LMP2 cars in the European Le Mans Series. And actually, the arrival of so many hypercars and LMGT3 cars and sort of the eviction of LMP2 from World Endurance has meant that the European Le Mans Series is now absolutely rammed with top flight talent, and lots of hypercar drivers end up going there and on weekends off. Drivers don't have weekends off. One of the things of having just 8 races in the World Endurance Championship is there is a lot of time for racing in IMSA and in things like the European Le Mans Series. So drivers are spending a lot of time behind the wheel, sort of unseen a little bit by World Endurance fans. On board with Ferdy Habsburg, we're really seriously hoping that any issues that they had, or the issues that they had with the Alpine engine last year, have been fixed. See, just listening to him going up through the gears, he was saying that at the beginning of the season, drivers were saying that they'd sort of backed off the engine and it was sort of getting up into 6th gear, 7th gear and just sort of plateauing, not accelerating anymore, but that still sounded like it had a bit of go in it.
Yeah, the Alpines at the moment running down in P17, P18 respectively. Lacking that performance we saw from them in Spa, but at least in a one-lap performance yesterday, they're there or thereabouts. They're kind of the same level as I read it yesterday, the same level as the Porsche Penske, the Works team. So they're in the fight, but I don't know if they're going to have the car to be fighting right at the sharp end this time around.
Well, at the moment, compared to their qualifying, 6 and 5 from Porsche Penske Motorsport look like they're much more on it. Now, into the slow zone here, and this is down towards the incident at Arnage. You can see the onboard driver safety monitoring system, separate from what's on the steering wheel. When you enter a slow zone, or you're coming up towards a slow zone, or a red flag, or a black and white flag, or a blue flag, those are all displayed to you inside the car as well. So, again, it's very much a safety feature that was introduced in the championship here a few years ago. Some animated discussions going on here with the Ferrari team. 50 is still in the garage having work. Now there's the crane lifting out the number 9 car, and Anthony, this is one of the tests they now do in the pesage and the scrutineering in the middle of town. Each of the cars has to have a set of socket holes in the roof, and every crane has a bar with little hooks that go into them, so the cars have to be able to be lifted up very easily. It's not ratchet straps or any of the other nonsense. It's a very simple, quick click into place, and then you can lift the car out as quickly as possible.
I just felt a bit uncomfortable being the driver sitting in the car, though, and it's a lot of trust in that mechanism to hold the car swinging around in the air while you sit inside it, and you think, if this thing falls now, I'm going to break my back.
Yeah.
It's such a stiffly sprung car. It's not going to be it's an uncomfortable drop if it happens, but luckily it doesn't. And they have to balance either end of it because of the weight distribution of the car as well.
So when they will recover you, you need to shake off the gravel first, off track and offline before rejoining.
Eduardo, race director's always pretty hot with that one, just making sure the drivers don't just immediately join the racing line and then spread gravel all over that part of the track, as we see the number 9 get going again.
Yeah, and
it's a bit skew width at the front because the bodywork damaged, but the most important thing is, are the wheels pointing in the right direction?
I think so. It sort of bumped into it, yeah. And actually, it looks like it hasn't even broken the clips on the left-hand side, but he's going to have to be a bit cautious. So Jonas Reed heading back. You saw his teammates, Richard Dujeras closest to the camera, and Matteo Campietto in the garage there watching the recovery operation. They're watching the same TV pictures that you are at home or at work, wherever you happen to be watching. We do realise that although we are at work, we are actually able to watch this, and there will be a lot of people just sort of with a little browser window open somewhere or watching on the phone while they're getting on with their daily jobs. So slow zone procedure will end in 15 seconds. And everybody will go back to green, and Jonas Reed trying to stay offline, and particularly when you come down into the Porsche curbs, Anthony, everybody will be whistling by him, going very quickly by that stage, so he will really want to be out of line. Comes in over the new tarmac in the Porsche curbs.
Yeah, you'll have the white flag waved as well, just to let the drivers coming up behind know that there's a slow-moving vehicle, and they'll also have it on that Marshall display system as well that you pointed out correctly on the right-hand side with the Alpine, just to let them know that the white flag is being shown. If you don't see it on track, you've got it in the car as well. So it's a tense moment though when you're travelling through the Porsche curbs. I've done it before where you're limping back to the pits and you got cars bearing down on you flat out. You put a lot of trust in your competitors at that point.
Looking here at two of our front runners in LMP2 with the CrowdStrike livery. That's the 45 car from Algarve Pro, APR, and that car was on top of the faster of the two Algarve Pro cars yesterday. It was in the top 3 or 4 in qualifying, so that'll be in hyperpole, as will the car behind it, 28 from EDEX Sport. So EDEX Sport with 2 cars in the field. The 28 car is that red and black one. The 19 EDEX Sport LMP2 car, that is the orange, 18 rather, that is the orange and black car. Jamie Chadwick, Matti Chaubert and Andre Lotterer, and that's the car that's in the colours of the Hyundai brand Genesis. Genesis Magna Racing will enter Hypercar next year. Still no sign of Proton Competitions. Number 88 Mustang rejoining the fray, has had 2 forays out of the pit lane, but has not completed a timed lap, which is not ideal. And here's the 45 car, and again, as you can see, about half the field in LMP2 is in the Pro-Am class, and the definition there is you must have at least 1 bronze driver in your lineup to be in the Pro-Am class.
It's George Kurtz, isn't it, in this car as the bronze driver. And yeah, they're running P7 at the moment. Had a strong day yesterday as well.
Yeah, they are.
Resurfacing happening as well, which changes things. LMP2 competitors have a new construction and tyre to use this year. I noticed one of the United Autosports LMP2 cars just had a little moment down there.
22. Car 22. I can tell the difference, thankfully, head-on from these cars, because the 22 has a very visible red top to its cockpit area. The windscreen visor, if you like, and yes, Dutchman Renger van der Zande, who's made an uncharacteristic error at Arnage.
Yes.
So he went straight on at that right-hander, the 90-degree right. Let's grab a quick report from Nick Daywin, this CrowdStrike pit report.
Yeah, down with the 101 Cadillac, that's the Wayne Taylor racing machine. It is in a state of désuble, as they say. There are bits off it, the gearbox is off the rear end. They're working hard on the engine, the actual manifold off, so you can actually see the you can see the pistons if you look really carefully. There is the liquids come out of it. They seem to be removing the clutch now, so I'm wondering whether actually this is maybe a clutch situation, or they're going to have to do a complete engine change. Not something you'd obviously do before qualifying to put it in for the race. So this is something that's developed a problem during the course of this session. I think we've got a bit of exciting weather update, so I shall carry on watching this, and if anything more happens, I shall tell you.
Lovely stuff. Nick Damon providing the CrowdStrike pit reports. We'll have Ryan Marine in the next hour as well, but it is still the 51 Ferrari that is quickest in free practice 3, with a 3:25.705 set much earlier on in the session. 0.6 of a second clear of the Phil Hansen now driven AF Corsa Ferrari, number 83. Porsche Penske Motorsport 963s are next, third and fourth fastest for Matt Campbell in the 6, Julian Andlauer in the 5, and then it's Miguel Molina in the number 50 499P, having done a 3:27.5.
Just to pick up on that stop that Nick Damon was describing for the Wayne Taylor Cadillac car number 101, over half an hour that car's been at rest. It's only completed 8 laps of the session, so it is indeed in a state of undress, in case you didn't understand Nick's French, and has been worked upon, as I say, for the last half hour at least. Hats off to Mike Conway in the number 7 Toyota. May not be participating in the Hyperpole later on this afternoon, early this evening, but he's been out at the wheel of that car throughout this session and has put in some 18 laps of the hour and a bit of the race we've had, of the session we've had so far. Mike Conway, a busy boy for Toyota.
The moment it is 28 degrees Celsius and relatively low cloud, or low wind I should say, bringing that cloud across the circuit. Still pretty humid in places, and a high, we're just about at the high, 29 degrees Celsius, so we're going to creep an extra.
Riding on board in the third free practice session for the 2025 Le Mans 24 Hours with Rahul Frey in the Iron Dames Porsche, and Anthony Davidson just skirting the gravel trap on the exit of the left-hander at Indianapolis.
Always a tricky one. We saw the car number 9 go off there in the LMP2 and hit the front of the bodywork, the Iron Lynx Proton Ram car, and that was the Iron Dames car that we saw go through. So it's critical to carry the speed, but if you go over the curve like Frey just did there, you're going to lose a little bit of lap time because you have to delay getting on power.
Hour and a quarter in, hour and 45 minutes to go. Those are the standings so far. 21 cars in the hypercar class, 17 in LMP2. I was going to say LMGT2 there, and that didn't really work, did it? And a massive 24 cars in LMGT3, of which 23 have successfully completed the lap. Question marks over the 88 car. Might have to get Bruce Urani to go down there. Now then, if you're catching up with Le Mans for the first time and you haven't been watching the World Endurance Championship this year, shame on you, but I understand that everybody has a life, apart from me. However, if you want to catch up with what's happened so far this season before we go into Le Mans, then you have a very easy option, either on the WEC YouTube channel or by going to FIAWC.tv. You can watch Full Access. Now, Full Access is a behind-the-scenes, unseen footage version of what happened in the race. The Spa race dropped, as the kids say, probably don't anymore, last week on the YouTube channel, and you can also catch up with what happened to the race before round 2 in Imola, and indeed the season opener in Qatar. So it gives you a little bit of extra onboard footage that you won't have seen, but it also particularly gives you what the drivers and the teams are thinking as the race progresses and as some of the interesting moments happen. Go and watch Qatar for the stony silence after the Cadillac on Cadillac action that cost them what looked like a win. And Full Access will be going out after Le Mans as well. Tom Christensen in the garage. Always good to see Mr. Le Mans around and about. 9-time winner of this race. Is there ever going to be a driver that wins more than that? It's hard to imagine. You know, he was here in a period of real dominance by one manufacturer and almost always seemed to be the guy that was in the right car.
Yeah, we had Toyota. Toyota was kind of like a snapshot of what Christensen went through in his time with Audi, wasn't it? Where they had very little competition apart from your sister car or other teammates. So, you know, not trying to take anything away from him in that time, but I do believe it's the most competitive we've ever seen it.
Okay, Ross, going to cut this run short because we've lost some time, so we're going to box this lap, get new tyres, full fuel.
All right, interesting. So lost a bit of time, so I'm not quite sure why, but 007 heading in, one of our two Aston Martin Valkyries. And obviously Aston Martin making an awful lot of the fact that having a wailing, normally aspirated V12 around the tracks is not a hardship in any way. We talked about it at Qatar, didn't we, Anthony? We went out to watch practice, and you could hear every gear change around the entire lap. And actually, it's not far off that here at Le Mans either, despite the distance and the forest in between us and half the racetrack.
It is the loudest car out there, but thankfully it's the nicest sounding car out there as well. So we'll let it off. It is fantastic. And I'll tell you what, though, from a driver's point of view, it can actually start to wear you down a little bit when the car is so loud with the rev so high for the length of this race. It's as cool as it sounds. Over 24 hours, it does start to drag a bit.
Yeah, now, proud daddy Ian Gunn, former mini racer of this parish, David Addison pops up. Ian Gunn is coming out here as well. And again, motor racing dad, he's going to be so proud.
Absolutely.
I mean, who wouldn't be to come and watch your boy race at Le Mans for a team like Aston Martin with so much heritage?
And they're doing so well. They're taking that car steps forward here, which isn't often the case. It's a challenging place to make progress, but they're doing that and doing it very well indeed.
I just saw the 99 Proton Porsche having one of those drat moments as he outbraked himself going through the chicane.
I just realised why they've done that tribute livery. Because the 51 car would have been looking in the mirror and thinking, oh, it's my team car, we're fine.
Not enough yellow on it. But are we going to have red on red action at the end of the race? It's entirely possible. I can't believe that Toyota haven't got a car that's capable of winning this race. It means too much to them, having lost the last 2 years. They are really, really, really angry about it. It's probably not the right word. It probably is the right word, actually, but super motivated to come back and try and win again.
Angrily determined and competitive.
Yeah.
I think, there's definitely a bit of anger in there thrown in, which is great. That's what we want to. That's what we've come here to see.
Which is what winning in Italy last year ahead of Toyota was all about. They were really, really chuffed to be able to do that ahead of Ferrari.
Winning the World Championship, stealing it from Porsche right in the last couple of hours of the race in Bahrain for the crescendo of a brilliant championship, and you saw at that moment how much it meant to Toyota.
Well, we've got a guest in the booth. We're being joined by the 2015 European Le Mans Series champion in LMP3, a man who achieved his motorsport dream in 2016, racing at Le Mans in the 24 hours in LMP2. He's been a class winner in the Silverstone 24 hours, so he's probably forgotten that, and competed in World Rallycross and in the Race of Champions in the Olympic Stadium in London. He's also something of a keen cyclist, having been inspired by Elliot in the E.T. film at the age of 6 and started his career on a £5 BMX. Now, from humble beginnings, he's gone on to win 30 Commonwealth, European and World Championship medals, 6 Olympic golds and a silver in a career that spanned from Sydney in 2000 to London in 2012, where he was also the standard bearer for Team GB. I'm getting prickles down my neck. I didn't get that while I'm running when I was writing that. Welcome to Sir Chris Hoy. Welcome back to Le Mans for a start. Press the button. Oh, now, hang on a minute. We have pressed the button. Right, let's swap you onto Graham's headset, because I can't go through reading all that again.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry about that. What a fantastic introduction. I'm so impressed.
I read it to boys earlier and I said, if I don't get a snigger with he's something of a keen cyclist, then I'll be very disappointed. So, okay, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
What's brought you back to Le Mans, other than just the joy of being here?
The opportunity to race again. So I'm taking part in the Mustang Invitational Mustang Challenge, and there's 40 dark horse are Mustangs on the grid, guys from America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, all over Europe, and it's a fantastic car. Normally aspirated, manual gearbox, 500 and something horsepower, no traction control. It's an absolute riot, and I'm just really happy to be back here. I never thought I'd be back racing at Le Mans. I did another support race a few years ago with Aston after the 2016 24-hour race, but it's just a privilege. I think there's so many people sitting in the crowd and probably sitting in this room here that would want to be out, you know, getting back on the track again and having a go. So I'm a very lucky boy.
What was it, Chris, that took you from pedal power on 2 wheels to internal combustion engine 4 wheels? What sparked that love, that passion for it?
I think at the heart of it is just pure enjoyment of speed and adrenaline. I did a track day at Jonathan Palmer's Bedford Autodrome. I did one of the Palmer Sport days, and I came away from that absolutely buzzing. And I thought, I said to him, "What? I want to do this again. How can I do more of this?" He said, "Buy yourself a small light car." So I bought a Caterham, and I went to my local track at Alton Park, and I just used to do track days, and it was my kind of end of cycling season fun thing to do. I did maybe half a dozen a year, but never imagined I would ever end up racing here. And it was actually, I was filming a documentary about Colin McRae, who was one of my heroes. 2012 it was, end of 2012, and it was while we were filming that documentary I got the chance to do a novice race series with Radical the following year. And so I lined up as a novice in 2013 in an SR1, and 3 years later I lined up here in an LMP2 at Le Mans. You know, as a kid who had a Le Mans Scalextric set, you know, with the silver and gold 911s with the headlights on them, asking my dad why have they got headlights, and he said they race through the night, son. They race through the night and non-stop. It just ignited my passion for it. So yeah, I do pinch myself every time I pull out the pit lane here for any kind of race at all. I pinch myself, and I'm very grateful.
And I mean, this is a question I've always asked drivers, and Anthony, you're a classic example. Does it get old, that first moment you drive around this circuit? Because it is so different from everything else.
It is. I first drove around this track when simulators weren't a thing. So today, the young drivers coming here would have done it in the virtual world. And I'm sure you didn't have that experience still, did you? No?
I did a bit of sim stuff, but it was very basic compared to what they have now, but yeah.
But when you drive this track, it must have been the same as when you rode your bike, Chris, in historic places around the world, where it does send a shiver down your spine, definitely.
I think anything that you watch growing up, you know, no matter what it is you do, if you play football for your country, or you represent your country at the Olympics, or you drive at Le Mans, whatever the race is or event is, if you've been a fan of it and seen it growing up as a kid, you go back to being that kid when you first experience it as an adult. And yeah, the hard thing for me in 2016 was to stop being the fan and be the driver, and not just go, oh my God, I'm driving through the Porsche curves. Oh, there's Mark Webber in a Porsche, you know, flashing his lights at me. You know, it's trying to get your head around. You're here to do a job, and as great as it is, focus on the task at hand, and then you can enjoy and reflect once you got back out of the car.
You're not the first to say, actually, I was kind of distracted by the track for the first time. And I sort of think that there ought to be a rookie session where first timers just go out and drive the track for half an hour just to get that out of the system, and then they can really focus a little bit. It's the 83 Ferrari that's second quickest, just slightly miscuing the entry to the pit lane there, Anthony.
Yeah, not the first car we've seen do that this weekend, and you're always trying to push the limits, aren't you, into that series of corners, because it's not actually where the pit lane speed limit is. You're far from it at that point on the track. What's caught your eye so far, though, here, Chris? Who do you think's, who's your money on?
Well, Ferrari are hard to look past, but you never know, do you? There's always the question, who's showing their hand so far? And I just love seeing the Valkyrie out on track. That's the first time I've seen it. Sounds amazing. There's a real fan's favourite. I mean, obviously, you have fans that are behind one particular manufacturer, but I think for neutral fans, it's cool to see a V12 in there. And I'm just so excited that there is a really broad spectrum of manufacturers in the top class. Whoa.
There's another one. Is there some gravel down there in the chicane? The number of cars that have gone off, I think there rather might be.
We were watching up in the Ford Hospitality. It's just next to the two chicanes, and yeah, so many seem to be getting their entry wrong to it, carrying too much speed in and a couple into gravel. And there must be some gravel on the track, surely.
Yeah, and also we've got the tailwind down this part of the track as well today. There's a shift from yesterday, which was more of a easterly wind blowing them towards Indianapolis. Today it's blowing them down towards turn 1, so, and also into that Ford chicane where you've been standing. So
I should have felt that when I was driving my Mustang in qualifying. I was more worried about, I had a terrible quality today. I'm not even going to give you all the excuses, but it didn't go well. But yeah, better tomorrow, hopefully.
Well, hopefully you'll have more of a grin on your face tomorrow. So you're sharing the car, aren't you? So how does that work? Is it a 2-driver race, 2 races, one for each of you?
2 races. So with Chris Harris, who I'm a big fan of, as a Top Gear presenter and as a filmmaker, and just to me, he brings cars to life, and he's got such a passion for them. So it's exciting to be sharing the car with him. He did FP1, which was a full session. I did FP2, which was red flagged after like 10 minutes. I got 3 laps in. As I say, I've got all the excuses. And then he had to dash back to the UK for an event, so he's coming back tomorrow. So I did quali, and I had to phone him up and tell him how bad a position it was, and I'm really sorry, you're going to have to start not in the place that he hoped you would be. And then he does race 2. So I do race 1 tomorrow. He does race 2 on Saturday morning. And yeah, stay on to watch the race, the 24 hours.
It's a really interesting grid. First time we've seen the Ford Mustang Dark Horse are in racing in Europe, and it's a car they've got ambitions for globally. And the grid is a really interesting one. It's lots of the guys from the 2 American championships. And then we've got, is it the Dark Horse Stars they're telling us?
Yes.
And that includes Ford CEO Jim Farley. Is the rule don't hit Jim?
Don't beat the boss. So you've got in that class, you've got Jim Farley, you've got Tanner Faust, you've got myself and Chris Harris, you've got Frankie Munitz, Malcolm in the middle, as he's probably. I mean, it's a shame you have to say that after his name, but that is how people will know him outside of the motorsport world. But he's the real deal. He qualified well, and he's taking it seriously. He's doing a full-time, full racing professional now, and yeah, he's in there as well, and it's. Within that, we're all in the same car, so it's not there's different classes, different cars. We're all in Dark Horse R's.
It's a real amalgam of people in all sorts of ways. People taking the opportunity through this challenge event to come and experience this track. It's a massive treat for the guys who've got the 4-season cars in the United States. What's the atmosphere down in the paddock like?
It's fantastic. It's so exciting. So many people, it is their first trip to Le Mans, particularly the Americans and the Australians, and yeah, you kind of relive those moments. And when it's not my first time here, but I still get the buzz. Being here, let alone driving on track. And you can see the excitement, you can see the nerves as well for a lot of the drivers, and how tentative a lot of them were on the first few laps. Because it's something, although it's just tarmac, and although it's just lefts and rights and straights, there's something different about this track. And people behave and drive differently at the beginning before they kind of find their feet, and it's really interesting to see that happen.
We've got to make clear, by the way, that 2016 race, which had an extraordinary finish, of course, with Kaz Nakajima and the car shared by and
he's not listening. Don't worry.
We can't let that go.
We never don't mention it. But we should make it clear: you finished that race and you finished it well. With Arca Pro Racing, you were back again this year. You've been back to see the guys.
I haven't been back to the pits this time. I keep going past it. We pull up just past where the pits are, and I'm desperately trying to wait to see if Stu or the boys are around. But they've done so well since 2016. I like to think it's all down to me.
Trouble here. So for the CLX,
it was blue and black. I thought, hang on a minute, that's the 25 Algarve Pro car. It's not. It's the Pure Racing CLX Pure Racing car.
It's on the Mulsanne.
Yeah, so he's clipped the barrier. I imagine he's outbraked himself into the chicane.
This is Alex Malikin, by the way, silver rank driver. Russian driver, but flagged in St Kitts Nevis nowadays is his racing licence. And yeah, I think he has clipped the barrier and exit, you think? That's where he would normally be there.
Yeah.
Glad to see it.
Yeah, running wide.
Oh, he's trying to avoid the skid from the Nine Dames. So,
that was driver error, but not Alex Malikin's driver error. And there must be a lot of that, particularly when you're released in a pack like you are from the support pit lane. Chris, everybody's like whoosh out together. And actually, perhaps the slight trepidation of the track is why Chris Harris got a clean qualifying session, but by your session, yeah, we're all up for this. We're gonna large it, and then it all goes a bit.
That's a great excuse. I'll take that. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah, it's funny because you want clear air, you want space, but equally, you know there's going to be some form of yellow flag, slow zone, red flag potentially. So you've got to make hay while the sun shines. Get out there, stick a good lap in. But everybody's trying to do the same thing. So it's difficult. And when the red flag's on, the clock keeps ticking. So you've got to make the most of the time you have.
Yeah, and the opportunity to come back here. You know, it's that romance. It's that boy inside that is still burning bright, which is just. And I don't think. Even the pros, I don't think they lose it. This place is just a bit magical. It's not just a racetrack, is it?
You know, you speak to former professional racing drivers who've seen it all and done it all before, and they're still walking about the paddock. They're still walking about as fans. They still are reflecting on this. They're still telling old stories. Coming back here is magical, and I think it's...
Ooh, 183.
Yep.
Oh, and it's into the barrier with a red flag as well. So the 183 has hit the wall. Now, where is this? I presume this looks like to be down towards the Porsche curves. Yes, it is. You can see on the entry list it's red flagged. Oh, we might just get out of this with a reverse. Gravel's not too deep at where he's gone off because there's a runoff area road. And the 183, of course, with Francesco Perudo at the wheel, 10th in LMP2, is going to live to fight another day. So we're opening up the LMP2 screens. Now, that red flag's a bit premature there from the race director, Eduardo Freitas. We could have got that away, but red flag is out, session suspended. Let's take a look. Yeah, so he's just run wide coming into the Porsche entry, bounces over the gravel, and then just slightly touches the barrier. That's not a red flag. That is really not a red flag situation. That's an overreaction from Eduardo Freitas there. Big.
Offline, trying to go by the 90 Porsche.
Carrying too much speed in, I'm afraid, and trying to make the corner safely, but he is going to get that car back to the pits. Francois Perudo looking to add yet another trophy to what is a massive trophy cabinet. We're about to hear from Eduardo Freitas, I think.
Hey, take it very easy, very easy. Just don't shake the gravel on the racing line. 80 kilometers per hour, there is a red flag for Mugello button. Stay out of the racing line.
Excellent advice from AF Corsa. And of course, 80 kilometers an hour because we're under the red flag. It is.
Yeah, one of those split-second decisions that you have to make all the time as any professional athlete, and it's the instinct, it's the experience that does all that. How hard did you find to sort of take all of that instinct, that competitive instinct, into cars? Did it come naturally to start with, or did it feel like harder work?
I think the competitive instinct never dies, and no matter what it is you're doing. So I needed something to exert that competitive, energies into, and motorsport really filled that gap beautifully.
Seeing again this incident that affected Alex Malikin and the Iron Dames car.
And that was Celia Martin, their new driver this season. Alex Malikin clipping the wall.
Great to see, by the way, the self-healing tyre wall there that bounced back into place.
So Malikin saved a little bit by the bell. The clock continues to run, though. We are 96 minutes into our 3-hour session, just over halfway.
Chris, it's been an absolutely delight to see you back at the one.
But I think, since yesterday we saw like two manufacturers are a lot quicker, are ahead of the field, so I wouldn't read a lot into it. I think we just focus on what we feel the balance would be good and what not, and then keep our noses clean and be in the hunt for the race.
But you and the team, Sean, you obviously feel that you've got a chance of competing for that pole position, because you've just said there, working on qualifying, so the McLaren you feel is fast enough.
I mean, we're working a bit of both, I think in the McLaren car at least, compared to what we had before, the package for quali and the race is quite similar. So like if we get a quicker lap time in quali, then we're also getting a quicker overall race car in the race, so it's a bit of both. But you never know what people are using, fuel loads and things like this. I would love to say we're sandbagging a lot and we have good pace, but unfortunately, I think a lot of other cars are doing that. So, I mean, we keep focused on what we're doing, and then we try to do our best.
Are you involved in qualifying tonight?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for talking to us.
Do you know what? If I want to actually be heard by anybody other than myself, I don't have to push a button. Joe Bradley, how many years have I been doing this, and I still can't manage to get it right? Finger trouble from Hindhoff there. Talking away in my own head anyway. Joe Bradley and Sean Galil down there. Already Francois Perrodo has brought the number 183 AF Corsa machine. That's one of the Pro-Am cars. 5th in Pro-Am at the moment and 10th in LMP2 of the whole class together. Got the United number 22 in the pit lane as well. Pietro Fittipaldi bringing that in. That's got its nose off as well. Oh, nice wear across the front of the tyres. That's pretty good. I think they'll be happy with that. They looked like they were making a slight either track change or maybe a slight camber change at the front end of that. I would say that was a camber change. Can't do that much because Goodyear, like Michelin, have the maximum cambers. Although we were talking about this yesterday, and that's the red wall Goodyear Eagle. So that is the red. That is the red. They've caught me out with that before. They've got a red wheel rim on that car. That was a medium because it had a big M on the side.
Exactly. Yeah,
Use your eyes, son.
The Goodyears have that M on. And Johnny and I were discussing this before we went over breakfast this morning, that Goodyear, they do have a hard tyre, but they've not yet released it. So it'll be in place for the WEC at Sao Paulo, but they don't think that the hard tyre, however hot it gets here, is going to be suitable for conditions at Le Mans. So pretty much all of the LMP2s and the LMGT3s will be using that medium Goodyear tyre.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday as well about that slightly different construction of the Goodyear tyre.
Ollie Jarvis reckoned it was 2 seconds a lap slower.
Slower? That's interesting. That's very interesting. It's a different in sidewall. That's a slightly more compliant sidewall. That's how it was explained to me, that teams have been given some camber back. I think it was 0.1 of a degree. Not huge, but they all makes a little bit of difference. I wonder if whilst we're under red and our CrowdStrike pit lane team are getting some interviews keyed up. We've got the 83 Richard Mille yellow Ferrari going back into its pit box. The trolleys are out. Race control telling all of the teams to tell their drivers to pick up the pace to enter the pit lane, which generally means that the issue has been sorted on the track and we can go back to green as soon as everybody get back in. I know that Kerry is listening in back at our main control room in London. I'll tell you what, I was going to say we'll take the update early, but let's not. Let's hear from the Canadian wizard that is Ron Fellows, one of the nicest blokes in the pit lane and heavily involved with Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We'll take a CrowdStrike pit lane update and an interview with Ron. Do tell him I was asking after him, Ryan Marine, and his lovely lady Linda.
I will do exactly that. We'll start by saying John Hindhoff says hi to you and to Linda. Do you have a message for John?
Hi, John. Love you.
Love you too, Ron.
He says he loves you right back. You're here, of course, with AWA, the very proudly Canadian team. You can't miss the fact they got the maple leaf all over this machine. How proud does it make you to see Canadian motorsport, which you championed for so long and continue to do so, represented on the world's biggest racing stage?
Yeah, no, we're here with an ambassador role for Corvette Racing, and yeah, Ori's dad, Carlo, he's our partner with at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So this is awesome that they've got Corvette, and they had a great run in the GTD class at Daytona. He earned the spot to come and get the invitation to Le Mans. So yeah, it's great to see, and they've got it decked out in red and white. So yeah, I get goosebumps when you see a lot of Canadian flag attached to this car.
A lot of IMSA teams, or drivers, really, when they come here, they will employ a European team, maybe bring over a few personnel to embed with the European team when they come to Le Mans. But that's not the approach that AWA has taken. This is that team that helped to win the Aiken Award for Ori Fidani a year ago and then won the Rolex this year.
Yeah, it's no different. I mean, you got to, in order to learn, you got to jump in. And you know, they've done, Andrew and the team have done a really good job doing lots of homework. Same with, you know, Ori, Matt, and Lars in terms of driving the place. You know, it was no different for us 25 years ago when we came here with Pratt Miller. You know, it was a steep learning curve in 2000, and the beauty is that they have, you know, they've got, AWA has the access to Corvette Racing and Pratt Miller people, and getting lots of support in terms of trying to shorten that learning curve.
Well, you bring up a good point, because for people of my age group, by the time I was paying close attention to this race, Corvette Racing was an established brand. They were the brand to beat in a long-distance race like this one. But if you read the history books, when you guys came here with Pratt Miller for the first time, you were up against some really established European teams. It was a real challenge.
Yeah, no, the team to beat back then, 25 years ago, was the...
Start the session. So the teams now can plan around that, with the number 51 Ferrari still being the fastest. Ferrari 1-2 with the Ferrari AF Corsa entry of Pierre Guidi, the current driver, the quicker, and then Phil Hansen, who's under investigation, in fact, for maybe crossing a white line when he came into the pit lane. Phil Hansen's car, which is the one he shares with Yefe and Robert Kubica, so that's second fastest. But we'll see whether there's anything draconian that heads the way of Phil Hansen for coming into the pit lane, possibly over that white line.
Well, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in that situation, aren't you? Because he messed the braking up on the final right-hander, went off the track, outside of the pit lane, so therefore over the white lines. Then he's rejoined to come back into the pit lane. But if you were to rejoin the circuit and carry on a whole other lap, you'd be picked for that as well.
Yes,
so,
yeah. So, which is the lesser penalty, really.
Exactly, yeah. As the barrier repair carries on down there at the first chicane.
Yeah, it's the barrier repair after the Malikian drama, isn't it? Not Perodo's that's the concern. So although the car is fixed, it's taking a bit longer to sort out the barriers. Everybody now back in, and with this being a free practice session, of course, the clock carries on ticking. So a little bit more frustration. Not only can they not do the laps, but Johnny Adam, this means they're running out of available time gradually.
Yeah, and they'll all have maybe agreed a program to run to, and obviously with this red flag, they've obviously broken that cycle. But yeah, it looks like everyone's pushing a bit harder today, maybe trying to find where the limit is, and just finding out again where the track grip is, obviously from the overnight rain as well. So yeah, they're sort of getting a benchmark.
There's the incident again, Ant.
Yeah, it's that moment where Martin's just, I mean, it was a great effort to this, what it looked like on board. So look at the amount of steering angle that's going into that one. Wow, it's a bit of ice driving expertise there by the looks of it. And then, yeah, Malikian, nowhere to go. And as soon as he pressed the brakes, with the car just on the limit like it is on the exit of that corner, it just understeered. And he was trying to scrub speed off desperately, tag the barrier. I've never seen a car hit the barrier that late on in the corner. Usually, you've lost the car much earlier than that. And this is the Perodo moment through the entry to the Porsche curves, all the way through the gravel and into the barrier there. Just goes to show the rate of speed you're carrying into that corner.
But he was able to find a gear and bring it back. So that car is not the one in real trouble in terms of causing this stoppage, but it's the barrier that is being attended to at the first of the chicanes, and more gravel needing to be swept out of the way. Right, Marshall's heading back on post. We've got an hour and 13 minutes with, at the moment, the 23 United Autosports Orica topping LMP2, LMGT3 also topped by United Autosports, a 1-2 there. The pair of McLarens at the top of the times. Thierry Tassin looks on from Team WRT, the sporting director overseeing the hypercar programme, and there is number 20, good to go back out. That's 17th at the moment. Sheldon van der Linden having brought it in, and attention at the front of number 5 Porsche. That's the car that is currently 4th in the times.
Yeah, they've been focusing on the long runs. They started the session with old tyres, and they've pretty much run them through all the way up until now. It was Julian Andlauer at the wheel of number 5 before this red flag, and the car goes back up on the stands there. And its last run, it had already done 15 laps.
Right.
Well, the last set of tyres went on, had 15 laps on them to start, and then he continued to do another further 8 laps. So, yeah, the team's definitely at this point, there's just over an hour to go, focusing on the long run pace and what the balance is like. And hopefully the circuit now is getting more towards the state where it'll be, and hopefully for, say, like race start. And then the track usually just continues to improve through the whole race. Give or take a bit of gravel here or there. There are moments where you have moments like this where they're doing barrier repairs and gravel all over the circuit, and it takes a while to brush that off. But the most important thing is laying the rubber down, and that's what the tyres respond well to. But this repair here on the exit of the first chicane, looks like a bit of a challenge for them, doesn't it?
Still, we haven't seen 88, the Dennis Olsen Mustang, do a time. It crept out and did a slow outlap and back in. And another car that is circulating, which is good, and it's important because they need to get the mileage in. The 3 rookies of Stephen Grove, his son Brenton, and Lukas Stoltz. Odd to think of Lukas Stoltz as a rookie with such a celebrated GT3 career. But after that was stacked into the wall pretty early on in FP1 yesterday, no laps done in qualifying. They've found themselves on the back foot here, so they're trying to play catch-up after very, very little running yesterday. Right, the queue of cars is forming at the end of the pit lane.
Session will start on a short call. Session will be starting on a short call.
That's the word from race control then, to get the teams on their toes. So instead of giving a specified time, as quickly as possible, they'll just let them go.
And the one good thing about not having the tyre warm is that we get everyone at the end of the pit lane now.
Track is clear. Session will start in 5 seconds.
That's a short call.
That's what you call a short call.
He didn't lie.
The exit is now green. The exit is now green. Session has restarted.
Didn't even get a chance to explain why we see all the cars just casually rock up to the end of the pit lane these days because of the lack of tyre warmers. They're at no disadvantage to exiting the pit box early to get down there. You might as well wait down there and just wait for this short call, which we've just witnessed. So back out there now, green flag conditions, barriers are prepared. They can crack on with the long run pace and analysis of tyre degradation.
But it makes sense, again, to have that short call rather than say, OK, the session's going to restart in 2 minutes and have people sitting around for 2 minutes. Get them out as soon as, get them out there, get the mileage in.
And I like the way that they've been encouraging drivers and teams to push the limits in terms of the speed, bringing the car back to the pits under a red flag condition. If you've passed where it was that Marshall's on circuit repairing a barrier, it's a good amount of common sense. It's a long track. Let's get everyone back into the pit so we can carry on working on the barriers as quickly as possible.
There you're looking at the McLaren that tops LM GT3 at the moment. James Cottingham at the wheel of the United Autosports car, ahead of the sister car of Darren Lung, number 95.
Thank you for spending some of your Le Mans week with us. As they come up to speed, and before we see some laps, let's take a CrowdStrike pit lane report. Joe Bradley can bring us up to date with some action. Where are you, Joseph?
I am at Peugeot. The 93 car was ready to go, and then they've just pushed the car back in. Mikkel Jensen was looking on. Any real problem to worry about there for last-minute things?
No, we were just considering to do a setup change, but time is also running short, so everything under control this practice. Just need to find a little bit more pace to be more competitive for the race, so we work hard. Still an hour to go here and an hour at night. So let's hope we can fine-tune it a bit and get more competitive.
What's the mood in the team, Mikkel, with regards to missing out on Hyperpole tonight?
It's obviously not great, but it's a 24-hour race. If you start first, if you start 20s, it doesn't really matter. I think it's more a confidence thing, you know, to show that you got the pace. We didn't show that in the qualifying, so now we just work purely on the race and try to optimize everything we can, and hopefully on Saturday we will be strong out there.
Does it kind of take a pressure off you? Now you can just focus on the race, 24 hours. It's a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long race. It takes off some pressure. We can focus 100% on the race now. All the procedures we need to go through, the setup. Some others have to run the low fuel to prepare for the hyperpole, and we just go full fuel, race runs only, focus on the setup, the tires, everything to maximize the race. So definitely putting more effort into the race, let's say, than if you would be in hyperpole where you need to optimize the qualifying as well.
You mentioned the tyres. We always talk about the tyres, Mikel. Motorsport's all about the tyres, from karting all the way to this very high level. What exactly are you trying to find in the tyres? It is performance? Is it longevity?
Yeah, it's the black gold, as you say. So you need to make that work. If you don't make it work, the car can be horrible to drive at times. So once you understand the tires, especially here with the temperatures these days, it's super tough to make it last. So it's more about longevity at the moment, as you say. The hypercars are heavy and abrasive to the tires, so you really need a setup that's smooth, fast, but not hurting the tires too much. So you play a lot with the camber and caster on the car to make the tires be in the right window, and then with the temperatures, you need to maximize everything. So a lot of focus going on the tires.
Do you think, Mikel, there'll be much time to gain under race conditions with regards to, say, full stinting the tires, you know, quadruple stinting the tires? That something that the teams are aiming for?
It's obviously a big question. So we know in Le Mans it's quite easy to triple stint the tires because there's not so many corners on the distance here. You could be quadruple the tires, but it seems like in hypercar it's quite tough to make that happen more than in LMP2 because the cars are very heavy and hard on the tires. So I think we will see some try the quadruple, but maybe the triple is still the optimum. So you still need a lot of work to even make it work optimal for the triple stint. So that's why it's always a question of how aggressive you are on setup and in driving style first stint to make it last for the second and the third. Because in the end you want to optimize your average on the 3 or 4 stints that you do. So a lot of data to get analyzed and get gathered from all these practice sessions to be spot on Saturday and Sunday.
And when we talk about that triple stint as a driver, does the car become a little tricky when those tires are worn out?
It's tricky when the tires start to go off, especially with 30 degrees temp now. It's hard physically when you get into the second and third stint and start to struggle with the balance of the car. You also get more physically under tension because you need all the small movements to make the car be in the right window, and it's a big challenge. And obviously the temperatures make it even harder.
Is the 30 degrees going to stop you guys trying soft tires, maybe?
Oh yeah, the soft will not work at 30 degrees. So it's in these conditions, it's a tire for the night. And even last night, it's a question if it's even a tire for the night, if it's that hot. But it seems like it's going to cool down more for the race. So probably the soft is going to be taken into use at night.
You guys have a great race. We are always...
It's that's where you share the car together and you share the penalties that come your way as well.
Yeah, winners a team, losers a team, and all that. Yeah. Somewhere in the middle of all of that a moment ago was the 46 BMW, the Valentino Rossi car that has got Ahmad Al-Hafi at the wheel of it right now. There it is, and it is currently 4th in GT3. 2 years ago, Valentino Rossi, a class winner in the Road to Le Mans, Michelin Le Mans Cup race. Augusto Farfus nearest to you, and there is, as ever, a smiling Valentino Rossi, who is no longer former MotoGP champion. He is GT race winner and taken very seriously now.
Yeah, and pole position holder as well.
Yep.
So he's really enjoying his time on 4 wheels and in this BMW. So we're yet to see him out in action later on. He'll be in Hyperpole 1, of course, taking over from Al-Hati, who did a phenomenal job yesterday to tee it up once again for Valentino. They're making quite the duo, those two, when it comes to qualifying these days.
But Johnny, his progress has been really impressive, hasn't it?
Yeah, and over the last 2 or 3 seasons with Valentino, you can see he's very much adapted to car racing now.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously he's been in the same product with the BMW M4 GT3 car, and he knows the car well now. He's learnt the tyre over the last sort of 12 months and has good experience now at Le Mans. So it will be interesting later to see hopefully how strong he can be in Hyperpole.
He certainly had a good teacher to begin with in Maxime Martin for the first couple of seasons, 1 in Audi, 1 in BMW, and now Valentino having had a dual programme of WEC and GT World Challenge Europe last year, concentrating now on WEC, still in the LMGT3 class. And traffic blasts past Ahmed Al-Harthi then, concentrating on his line, his stint, but out of nowhere, seemingly.
And it wasn't just any traffic, it was the Aston Martin Valkyrie, wasn't it?
You heard it coming.
You saw it just flash by on the outside, but you definitely heard it before you saw it.
Super slow-mo with the BMW. There is that huge sausage curve you were talking about. It gives that a fair old whack.
Just, like I say, you could just sneak a little bit of that, but you don't want to go any more than what he did, so that's nicely positioned by Al-Harthi in the final chicane. I'm just looking at the top of the timesheets again. So we saw the car number 5, didn't we? The Porsche Penske car on the jacks, on the high stand actually in the garage. I wonder if they were just reverting it back to more of the qualifying setup, because they've slapped a brand new set of tyres on it.
Okay.
And he's just produced his fastest first sector.
And you're on board with Richard Lietz in the Manthey First Form Porsche, who is currently 6th in LMGT3. Goes across the line, another massively experienced driver. What he doesn't know about racing Porsches is not worth knowing. Comes out of the Dunlop S's underneath the footbridge. It sounds really noisy on board, but Johnny stood trackside last night. We were all commenting on how quiet the GT3 field sounds this year.
I think the decibel has been lowered slightly this year for LMGT3, and yeah, it was quite surprising to hear how quiet they actually were, especially McLaren. McLaren sounded very low pitch. If anything, we actually had more tyre squeal, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, we had more of that than the engine noise.
Yeah, 10 decibels have been lowered for this season in the LMGT3 category, and the reason why they've done it to the LMGT3s before the hypercars is just logistically easier to do on more kind of spec cars than it is on the prototypes that are all completely different to each other. So it is coming in time for the hypercars, but for now it's been implemented for the LMGT3s.
In the background, staying with LMGT3, Eduardo Barrichello in the Racing Spirits of Lake Geneva, or Racing Spirits of Le Mans Aston Martin, coming through the chicane. Son, of course, of Rubens Barrichello, as the guys were talking about earlier on. And further up the road is the Iron Dames Porsche. Celia Martin still at the wheel of that car, being monstered by one of the Mustangs. Matt Campbell's Porsche. He now cops a warning flag for, track limits. So there's the stats for Eduardo Barrichello, one of the 35 rookies that we've got in the event. And here, Celia Martin going defensive seemingly against the Mustang, not wanting to lose track position heading down to the chicane.
Yeah, she's got good space in front, so clearly just trying to keep that track position. But yeah, she's clearly on a good lap, so definitely doesn't want to let anyone go by. But at this point as well, it's good for the two cars to follow and just see where the strengths and weaknesses of the other cars, and more importantly, see where the aero wash could be potentially around Porsche cars.
So we're into the final hour of this session. Later on today at 8 o'clock local time, the second Hyperpole session starts, and then there's a further free practice hour at the very end of the day, the final night running from 11 until midnight. So there's still more track activity for the teams, and particularly that last hour important in the dark if you didn't get any running in yesterday. Right, Celia Martin is in danger of losing track position to Bernardo Sousa, the Portuguese rally driver, who's really keen to find a way past, and was ahead at the start of the lap. And this is why he lost track position, because a big rattle over that sausage curve. Peter Dumbrecht joins us in the booth, and Peter, that is not good for a car, is it?
No, I don't think any suspension setup is good for doing that kind of thing. I think about the old days, Johnny, you'd have driven these days when those sausage curbs weren't there, and you could actually pretty much go straight over the top. But you did risk the bottom of the car, but now it's absolutely a no-no to do that.
I know Bernardo Sousa comes from a rally background, but even that's a bit too off-roady. Right, now 199, let's go to LMP2 for a moment. This is the car that's currently 4th in class. Now, it is Louis Delatraz at the wheel of it, who is a real weapon in an LMP2 car. Very successful, great CV. His father, Jean-Denis Delatraz, of course, former racer. And go back a long time, when Louis started out, he was coached, guided by Alain Menu, who was an old school friend of Louis' dad. So he certainly gained some useful lessons very early on in his career. So Delatraz, a man to watch in this car that he shares with PJ Hyatt and Dane Cameron, of course, out of the Porsche hypercar stable of last year. But right now, Peter, Delatraz is on a mission.
Yeah, he's as you say, he's one of those drivers in this car. He knows it so well. He's previous winner here, isn't he? Yeah. So he knows the place like the back of his hand. He must feel quite confident. of course, these cars don't, the LMP2 cars don't race in the normal WEC championship, so they're getting to a bit of a late braking moment there. But you know, these are the times you've got to find the limit with a car and a driver. I think Ant talked about earlier on how we've had a lot of rain through the morning, and then cars came on track and they kind of washed the rubber away, so you see it rubbering back in again and the grip levels coming back. So gradually the track evolves and gets more grippy, and then the driver has to evolve to that as well, depending on the fuel load, etc.
And it was very, very heavy rain early this morning. As you look there at number 150 Ferrari, which had an engine drama yesterday. Custodio Toledo, Lilo Wadu and Riccardo Agostini are the three drivers of that Richard Mille AF Corsa entry. It does seem like most of the pit lane is taken up by AF Corsa with GT cars, with hypercars. And there, a very slow LMP2 car on track, crawling down to the end of the Mulsanne Straight, and that
front left is maybe a bit too cambered.
Yeah, you're right. There's got drama on the left front. It's the Algarve Pro Racing car of Nick Katzberg. Puncture.
It looked like a
bit of suspension. Or
suspension more, because it's really cambered over.
Right, so he's possibly whacked something rather than it be a failure. White flag, slow-moving vehicle on track. Let's try and listen in.
I took the left-hand side in Dunlop and it's immediately broke.
Copy that, Nicky.
Right, okay, so Nick Katzberg explaining to the team, not my fault, didn't hit anything, so the car limps back. And this is where the experience of somebody like Nick is valuable, because he'll know exactly where to position the car at any corner to bring it back, but get out of everybody else's way.
Yeah, we always used to have a rule of thumb of a speed limit that we would never go over.
How much, in terms of tyre resources, has been thrown at the car? And again, this could be people getting used to worn tyres. Hello to Mike Perrin, who's tweeted at RSL_studio using the hashtag 2020RLM24. And he says, Kes Cobb arranging the green flag as Nelly Telly and Eve did for the Indy 500, so that Andrew Marriott didn't miss the start. Power of Radio Show Limited knows no limits. Very funny, yes, absolutely. We do our best. We do our best. Good to have your company, everybody. And wherever you are in the world, keep tweeting in to us. Hello to Paul Earling. That was a Mediterranean veggie jalfrezi for lunch, and two USAF C-130s flew past low and slow late this morning. Could this get any better? Yes, I'm on leave tomorrow. What an excellent Thursday so far. Thank you. Team effort, of course. And if you want to drop us a line, it's at RSL_studio, hashtag 20RLM24. That's because it's our 20th Radio Le Mans 24 as Radio Show Limited. Coming up in the break, by the way, we will have some Le Mans memories with Peter Mackay, looking back at Porsche's excellent history here. The most overall victories of any manufacturer, sitting on 19 at the moment. So P-Mac will be zipping up his Porsche Anorak in the break between the sessions. Let's head back to the pit lane. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I'll just quickly say on the subject of Porsche, an improved time for Mathieu Jaminet in the number 5 car. He's put in a 3:26.7 to go 4th fastest. So we are seeing in the closing stages some improvements there. So having cleared up the Porsche situation.
Let's go to Joe Bradley, who's talking with another Northerner. He's talking to Jack Hawksworth.
So that, you're not going to tell me what you've just told your teammate, are you?
No, keep it secret.
Top of the screens, mate. Was that a qualifying situation for you out there?
Yeah, exactly. We're just kind of getting ready for qualifying this afternoon, so we're going to just kind of working on that now, and then this evening we'll work a little bit more on the race car, but just kind of, running through our program, and it's been a good week so far, so just chipping away at it.
So I saw you go across there and talk to your engineer. You've come across, talk to your teammate. You feel there's a little bit more performance there that's in the car?
I think just really refining and understanding how the tyres work, both on the long run and on a shorter run. especially when it's this hot. It's very sensitive to temperature, and with such a long lap, how you bring the tyre in, how it behaves on the long run. Just trying to optimise that.
And how much different is I mean, tonight is a different environment. It's a little bit cooler, maybe. Does that matter a massive amount for these cars?
Oh, massively, yeah. At night, the grip level is a lot higher. The temperature of the tyre is more stable. And, I mean, for instance, I think at night it will be quite easy to double, triple stint a set of tyres, right? Whilst in the daytime, doing double, triple is going to be hard graft.
We've been told about new tarmac and re-tarmacking out there. Has that made a massive difference from your standpoint?
So I didn't realise any tarmac had been put down until somebody told me. But I mean, the track seems faster this year, so must be a bit grippier.
And is that something that you just kind of feel through the stopwatch? You can't really feel anything through the wheel?
No, I think through just a couple of sections where the track does feel a bit higher grip, but it's not massive difference.
I saw a little bit of fuel going in there, just a touch. So we're still with the qualifying runs?
We're running through our programs.
All right, mate. Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for that. Great insight.
Very good. Jack Hawksworth there with Joe Bradley. A couple of northern lads enjoying being at Le Mans. One or two areas that have been re-tarmacked, resurfaced on the racetrack, including the entrance to the Porsche curves, exit of Tertre Rouge, a couple of other spots as well. Drivers seem to not necessarily be of one mind when it comes to better or worse.
Isn't it interesting? Because some drivers say, "Oh, how it
massive. Could feel it straight away." Yeah.
And then Jack Hawksworth didn't even notice until somebody told him. I suppose it reflects a little bit the differing experiences. Jack's only been here once before.
Correct.
I
think he got about 24 hours notice, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he was called up last year after the Mike Conway cycling incident that robbed them of Jose Maria Lopez, and so he had no track experience, but he had the car experience, and off he popped into the Codis Lexus team.
Yeah, see, he had a rookie test in the Bahrain rookie test with the Toyota hybrid team not last year, 2023, back end of 2023, when he drove a Toyota GR010, and it obviously was a experience for him.
I should say that Jack again is a super sub this year for Ben Barnicat, who's been out after, guess what, a cycling incident, and therefore he had a little bit more. He had a little more notice given for that. The good news is, if what I've been reading is to be believed, that Ben Barnicat will be back for next weekend's Sale 6 Hours of the Glen, and he'll be back in harness for that. Joe Bradley can bring us a little more on this. Is into pit lane with a very sideways moment for the Porsche Penske Motorsport Matt Campbell number 6. Bradders, what do you got?
So hang on a minute. So Jack Hawksworth stood in for Lopez last year after a cycling incident. This year,
for Mike Conway, yeah, he broke something. Yeah.
Mike, and then Lopez stepped out of the Lexus into the Toyota.
Exactly.
This year, Ben Barnicat has had a cycling incident.
Yes.
And once again, Jack Hawksworth takes over and gets a job at Le Mans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a pattern of behaviour, isn't it?
Well, you would have looked at that.
That's called a clue, that.
You would have looked at that as a clue.
Yeah.
Absolutely, your old job. Thank you.
He's coming across the wall. I'll just caution him and ask him.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm not going to caution him. He wouldn't know what I was talking about.
I think it was really interesting that both of the guys had had their bikes recently services at Hawksworth Cycles, which I don't know if that was important. A quick pit stop and in an electric motor takeoff for the Porsche Penske Motorsport number 6. Just a moment or two ago, a little bit of a moment for the number 46 BMW at the first chicane on the Mulsanne, that being the blue and yellow car. That's the car that was fastest in qualifying yesterday. So you can say that car is on provisional pole position as it stands right now. Who was in that? It was Ahmed El Harti, and just ran through the tyre barrier, rejoined, no harm, no foul. And we've got a Peugeot going slowly for Paul de Resta, so that makes it the number 93 Peugeot with the wing on for the second time. It's the first track that the winged car has been back to for a second time in the FIA World Endurance Championship. It came out of Arnage and the car didn't pick up out of the right-hander at Arnage. He's taking the driver's right himself as he's in the sunshine heading towards the Porsche curves. He's got drive and he's got engine power. He's sitting in first gear at 60 miles an hour, 62 miles an hour. He's got battery power, about half of it. Very interesting.
Interesting as well, picking up on what Mikkel Jensen was saying about the Peugeots just lacking a little bit. How much it was optimism on Mikkel's part and how much he actually did have a plan, I don't know, but he tended to imply that there would be some improvement coming for the race, with them being able to concentrate purely on race setup now. But things haven't really looked like being going anywhere near Peugeot's way from the very moment the cars took to the track on Sunday, really, for the test day.
It's a better day than I think we could have expected when we got up in a thunderstorm, thunder and lightning this morning, very heavy rain. Took all the dust off the cars, though, which was pretty good. So as we go into this evening, expect an overnight temperature of 15 degrees, partly cloudy. It'll feel fairly sticky. Tomorrow, on Friday, 31. Thunderstorms again, potentially dropping to 18 overnight. 26 and 25 on Saturday and Sunday, with a slightly better day in terms of the forecast. Less cloud, at least, on Sunday. And for the drive home on Monday, it's going to be hot with 28 degrees. So the number 93 Peugeot is into the pit lane, immediately goes back into the garage. Paul de Resta has limped that car home, looking in his rear view mirror, stuck in first gear or only able to drive at 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour. They're looking under the front of the car, and Joe Bradley is the nearest to the Peugeot Total Energy squad.
Yeah, the front of the car has come off. They were running their fingers underneath the steering rack, which is, of course, electrically operated, but it's still hydraulic in there, and they were looking like, to me, as though they were looking for a leak to see if there was any residue from that steering. So maybe, and this is pure speculation, Paul has mentioned and reported in a handling issue that has brought the car in. I mean, there's nothing apparent on the car. We've got a bit of a flat spot on the left front, but that might be just off coming into the pit apron. That would have disappeared by the time he came round. So rear deck has come off. We've got quite a bit of work going on, but nothing really that I can see sort of. In fact, yes, I can see the big jacks have come out.
Oh dear.
So it means that the car is going to go up about 1 metre high, so that means a big job.
And they do that, Joe, explain why they do that?
It's basically they're wanting the car up high so that they can actually get underneath it. So this might be quite well. Anything that needs the car really high so you can get underneath it is never a good sign.
Yeah, that looks like they're going to start thinking about the floor coming off that car, and that, as Joe said, probably means that there's something more sinister going on. The interest to me was that was the front end of the car. I expected them to immediately go to work at the back, so I thought they had a transmission or some kind of driveline issue. It may be that Paul had a warning, of course, and was told not to exceed a certain speed and to bring the car back slowly. George is telling me on the talk back in my ears here that Mikkel Jensen's been told to take his helmet off and stand down for a while. He's not going to be required. He's looking for improvements at the moment. Robert Kubica in the pit lane in second. On outlaps, Robin Freins in the number 20 BMW MT WRT BMW hypercar. That's a third place car. The number 5 Porsche Penske Motorsport Matcha Jaminet, and the 31-1 Felipe Drugovich drafted into the Cadillac Whelan program. So that's 3rd, 4th and 5th just going out of the pit lane, Paul.
Brendan Hartley's just put an improvement in the number 8 Toyota. 327.741 moves him up the timing screen to 8th, ahead of the other Toyota at the number 7 car, which is still in the hands of Nick De Vries. Nick's dominated the driving of that car today. I'm not sure if anybody else actually had a chance in the number 7. Nick De Vries, oh no, Mike Conway drove it for a stint. Mike Conway drove it for the first hour pretty much, and Nick De Vries has driven it since then. But as I say, at the moment it's Brendan Hartley, the quicker of the 2 Toyotas.
Just a note about a hyperpole tonight. Let's have a listen to Mick Schumacher. I'm pleased these engineers said that. I was just about to say the same thing. Put the mic a bit closer there. Obviously, some issue with applying the power. So basically what the engineer is saying there is, I'm ignoring everything you've said because I couldn't really hear it. You'll have to wait until you come closer to the pits. A note about hyperpole sessions tonight is the number 35 Alpine returns to the pit lane. It was brought in by Paul-Loup Chaton. I'll see if we can grab a look at who is taking that car out. Potentially two sessions for the classes. And what are the regulations, Paul, in terms of who has to do those sessions, who is allowed to do those sessions, what can be done within and between those sessions if you're fortunate enough to get through in any of those 3 categories?
Well, you can't do the sessions, I'm afraid.
Can I not?
You can commentate on them, but you're not allowed to drive.
Okay. Need to get me B light, my international B back again.
But I was about to say that anybody can drive, which is why I kind of corrected myself.
You know how to be out the door, don't you?
Yeah, so there are no restrictions about bronze drivers or silver drivers having to drive the cars in the hyperpole sessions. Anybody on the team can drive. However, whoever you put in the car for Hyperpole 1, and bear in mind that there are 2 Hyperpole 1s, because LMGT3 and LMP2 run together for their Hyperpoles 1 and 2, and then the Hypercars run on their own for their Hyperpole 1 and Hyperpole 2. The only restriction is that Hyperpole 1 must be driven by somebody different in Hyperpole 2.
Okay.
So you have to change the driver between Hyperpole 1 and Hyperpole 2.
But it could be the person who qualified the car yesterday into the Hyperpole.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
So today's a reset then in that case?
In that sense,
right.
Yes. And you're not allowed to change the driver during Hyperpole 1. There isn't really time to do so anyway. But you're not allowed to change the driver during Hyperpole 1. You're not allowed to change the driver during Hyperpole 2. But you have to change, as I say, have a different driver for Hyperpole 2. You're not allowed to refuel during Hyperpole 1 or during Hyperpole 2. You can refuel between Hyperpole 1 and Hyperpole 2.
And the tyres?
And the tyres, you have 3 sets, which you can use however you want.
And can you mix and match them then?
You can mix and match if you want to use, I mean, in effect, you have 12 tyres.
Right.
So you can use 6 in Hyperpole 1 and 6 in Hyperpole 2. You can use 1 set in Hyperpole 1, knowing that you're then going to get 2 chances in Hyperpole 2. But Hyperpole 2, again, only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So Hyperpole 1 is 20 minutes, Hyperpole 2, only 15 minutes. So by the time you've done your outlap, you're talking 4 minutes into the session, and then you're doing a maximum of 4 laps. If you're going to put a pit stop in the middle of that to change tyres, you're struggling.
Let's head down for a CrowdStrike pit lane report. Alex Quinn is standing by for a little chat.
So the number 45 CrowdStrike Oringer, I've just watched team principal getting his hands dirty. Stuart Cox, get out of the way, I'll put this on. Wishbone change front upright just being bolted on. Alex, a problem with the 45, but you went at the wheel. What do you know about that?
Yeah, we're just getting Nicky out for some qualifying runs, and around here, to be quick, you have to take the curbs, yeah, just a little bit too much, I think. It's quite a common failure here when you take the curbs, so that's all it is. We're on it. Obviously, like you said, Stuart is getting his hands dirty. I love Stuart, and you know, what other team manager would you see getting your hands dirty? So we'll get it changed pretty quick and get back out there, I'd say.
Now, normally a car braking like that is a bad thing, but personally, I'd like everything to break in practice, please, and stay together for the race.
Of course, yeah. Now's the time to experiment with the limits ahead of hyperpole later this afternoon. We know in the race we cannot take them, so it's something we're certainly aware of, and like you said, now's the best time for it to happen.
But you have to take them in qualifying tonight, yeah?
To be quick, you have to take them.
You have to take them and damage the car, but in the race, no.
Yeah, well, you know, we're seeing now how much time we're spending in the box. If that happens in the race, it's race over, so absolutely not in the race, yeah.
And how hard is it to stay disciplined like that when you're in the heat of battle?
It's tricky because, you know, Le Mans known for being a 24-hour sprint race, but it's going to be important that we keep our head cool and not get in any battles that we might, you know, feel enticed to get involved in. So, yes, we'll have to stay calm and avoid the curbs for sure, and hope that others take them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex. Good job on the 45.
Ryan Marine standing by for an update for us on the Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac, the 10-1 or the 101. But before that, some news of a change at the top, a huge sideways moment for the car that's just gone to the top of the timings. Mathieu Jaminet down to a 3:24.7 and puts a second on the field. James Collado out in the AF Corsa Ferrari number 51, the 499P. Surely that cannot have been that fast lap from Jaminet. That must have been the next one by. Paul's shaking his head. That was on his fast lap when he was completely sideways.
Absolutely, and he
that's the way to get through the chicane then.
Had he kept it in a straight line, yes, Jaminet certainly ringing the net of that Porsche 963 goes to the top of the times, as you say.
Just for Guff Lamont, who has tweeted in, why has the 10-1 or the 101 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac been in the pits for so long? It's only done 8 laps. Guff, you ask on @RSL_studio, and thou shalt receive, courtesy of Ryan Marine.
Well, I do have the answer to that question. As a matter of fact, I've been watching that car. I've been trying to get an update, but they've been all hands on deck. However, it looks like the problem is about to be resolved. Here's the story. They went out, and within the first 2 laps, they saw something on the telemetry that indicated a problem with the power plant. And ultimately, they've elected to go ahead and do an engine change during this practice session. It's taken them roughly 90 minutes, but I'm told they're just wrapping that up and hope to get the new engine broken in here before this session is done. So right now the crew just buttoning things up, getting the bodywork back on, and very soon we should see that car back out on track, which again comes on the heels of a great qualifying session last night, which saw all 4 Cadillacs move on to hyperpole, which is a tremendous accomplishment, especially for this Wayne Taylor team that's making its debut here. But they did find themselves on the back foot. However, good work to get that engine changed more or less completed.
So the question I suppose I've got to ask, Ryan, is were they going to change the engine anyway? Because a lot of people leave the engine change to the race engine till later in the week, or had they already changed to their race engine after the test day?
I did ask that question, and I got a wry smile. This is absolutely not planned. This was not what they were planning on doing whatsoever. So they were forced to scramble a little bit here when fate's fickle hand reached out and touched the number 101.
It's Ryan Marine.
In the hands of, he says, hunting to find it. Dries Van Thor behind the wheel. And he's quite a long way down the times. Let's listen in.
Well, my back, we need to check at 3:16.1. It's very bad, my back hurts now. As soon as we touch the brake, a massive bouncing, but like absolutely
Okay, copy.
So Dries van Voor in pain. Not an easy ride. This is not good.
Absolutely. If you think this is just a practice session, essentially, and you certainly don't want to go into a 24-hour race with a car that's going to kill your drivers within the first couple of hours.
I mean, Johnny, racing drivers are not wusses. For a driver to say that to the team, that he's in real pain, you know, it's got to be bad.
Yeah, whether the team have actually done some new seat inserts for this weekend, being a longer race or longer stint, shall we say. Sometimes it's not correct, so there could be an adjustment there, or they've tried something quite radical with setup before qualifying to try and get the balance a bit more towards qualifying. But it seems like he's in a bit of pain there.
Yeah, well, come what may, he's had enough. He's in. Dries van Voor brings the car in 7th fastest. There's going to be a driver change, but it'll be interesting to see what Dries van Voor is like when he gets out, whether he sort of pops out or he's quite gentle getting out, because, he's saying he's in a lot of back pain, and rather gingerly, perhaps, he walks away, as into the car then is now going to be Raffaele Marciello, and there's a stop-go penalty going the way of number 60, the Iron Lynx Mercedes. Andrew Gilbert's just been done for track limit offences. Meanwhile, how a Cadillac getting on? At the moment, we've got the 311 being the best of them. There, bouncing over the curb, is number 12. Alex Lynn at the wheel of it, 9th in the times that. And the Cadillacs, with all due respect to Aston Martin, also sound pretty awesome, don't they?
Certainly do, yes. Yeah, and Lynn is really on fire so far this weekend.
Yeah, riding on board now with Alex Lynn.
TNT. Whether it's his comfort or something not quite right with the car, don't know, but they've got those two cars into the Hyperpole session still to come, and they'll be looking to start the race, obviously, as near to the front as possible, with particularly Dries's record. Sebastian Bourdais has just improved in the Cadillac Hertzstein Jota V-Series R. He's done a 327.071 to be quicker than Dries van Voor, so he moves up to 6th. And so the top times, Porsche 963 quickest, Ferrari 499P second and third, and then the BMW M Hybrid V8 of the number 20 car, Robin Fines, is 4th fastest, ahead of 2 Cadillacs, another BMW and a Porsche. But Toyota's currently just 11th and 12th. Fastest of the Alpines is 14th. 2 Aston Martins are creating themselves pretty well at the moment. 2 Valkyries, 15th and 16th out of a 21-car field. That's good going.
It's getting harder and harder to get an entry to Le Mans as the FIA World Endurance Championship continues its upward trend. Although not a full entry for the WEC this year. There are a couple of free places on the grid. However, I suspect that won't be the case next year. One way to get in is if you're competing in IMSA as a non-pro driver, and you are the best non-pro driver in the prototype or the GT category. There are 2 awards which attract Le Mans invitations, the Truman and Aitken Awards, to great names in IMSA racing history. The former of those winners from last season is with Joe Bradley down in the pit lane for this CrowdStrike report at Inter Europol. It's Nick Poole, who's got his family over as well, I believe, Joe.
Yeah, we are, of course, talking about Nick Poole. He's just jumped out of the number 34, the Inter Europol car. And I'm going to ask Nick the same question I'm asking everyone who hasn't qualified into Hypercar this evening, into the Hyperpole, I should say, this evening. Nick, the pressure's off. You can enjoy this now.
Yeah, you know, it's a long race. Obviously, it's disappointing to not get to watch the guys go and run Hyperpole, but I think we have a good car for the race. I mean, poor Luca left the pits, and before I think he was down pit lane, he had a flat with a valve failure, so it's kind of just one of those things. But we're rebounding from it. I think we'll be strong in the night and hopefully strong on Sunday afternoon.
We all know how cruel this sport can be, and that was certainly a cruel sight that we saw last night. That allows you to prepare. I mean, we always think by Saturday lunchtime, no one even remembers qualifying once that grid gets underway, do they?
No, it's true. It's kind of fun being out there. We did a long run to kind of judge tire wear just now. And most of the guys around are doing quali sim runs. So it's a bit like, oh man, are we off? And then you realize that they're prepping tires for a single lap or two. But yeah, this is always a special place though. It's so hard to get it right. But hopefully both cars have a good run.
So you won the place here at Le Mans, Nick, with the Truman Award over in IMSA. Just what is interesting is how you turn that award that allows you to come to Le Mans into being here at Le Mans with the team. What's the process? You ring the teams, ask who wants to drive it?
Yeah, you know, we won the championship obviously last year, Kuba, myself, and Tom. And so it was a no-brainer in terms of who to partner with for the race, and kind of as soon as the season finished, we knew what was going to happen. And we started doing what we could to prep for it. We didn't really get to test much for the race, but that's okay. I mean, clearly their results over the past few years demonstrate they know what they're doing, so I'm excited to get the race started.
Yeah, you've placed yourself in a very strong team, and that gives a confidence from a driver, a non-pro driver like yourself.
100%, and you know, it's fun having continuity for someone like me in the AM spot, having someone like, I mean, a new addition, Nick and JB and Luca, and then also Tom and Kuba from last year to lean on still. So I feel like I'm in a really good spot.
And you're here with the families here, we believe, and everybody's enjoying the French experience, I think.
Oh yeah, you'll probably see our group of friends and sponsors wandering around the paddock with cowboy hats. We've got a big Texas contingent, so we're going to try and do them proud.
Well, it's 30 degrees, so they're going to need those hats, Nick. Thanks for joining us, mate. Hopefully we'll have a good time session and everybody gets those laps in.
Full course yellow is out with 25 minutes to go here at Le Mans. Just doing some debris pickup as well.
And you're literally pushing the limit. You're trying to get down to 80k as safely as you can, but at the same time you're pushing that boundary of speed right to when it does go FCY.
Okay, let's quickly, while we have this full course yellow, go to the pits. Bruce Ioane has been on his toes and he's headed to Peugeot Total Energies. What's the news, Bruce? It didn't look all that good a few minutes ago.
Yeah, no, they had hydraulic failures on the car, a leak, and they had to basically undo the entire car to find where the leak was from. It was causing troubles also on the control the rack, the direction. So now they've figured out, and the car is being put together again, and it should be out again soon.
That's the good news. Thanks, Bruce. So Bruce Ioane patrolling the pits for us, and with 24 3/4 minutes, what do they have when they put the car in the garage? 46. If it's almost ready to go, that's been a mega effort, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's all practice for the race, isn't it? You know, these guys are well drilled, and when a problem like that comes up, they don't just sit on their hands and wonder what was wrong.
Yeah.
They get stuck in about it, and generally speaking, they diagnose it very quickly and get it back together. So not impressive work. All good training for the race itself.
So the Race Direct channel says we're about to go back green, and
full course yellow will be removed in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow removed. Full course yellow removed.
So of course that's not Eduardo's voice, is it? So if you think about the control tower, the control room for the race, it's not just Eduardo. This is a 24-hour race, so Eduardo's got 2 assistants that work with him. So it's not all on him, and the weight of the race, all these decisions have to be spread across different people. So FIA have a big team of people, including the stewards and driver advisor Yannick Dalmas and safety car driver Pedro Conchero.
Sure.
So it's a big old, not just for these teams racing, but it's a big event for the FIA and the ACO.
But that point you make about different officials, so there will be times where Eduardo lets his deputy take over. The teams need to be aware of that voice. So that possible test of a full course yellow with a different race director's voice, it's all useful experience, isn't it?
Right, yes.
So, with 23 minutes still on the clock, it is Porsche, Ferrari, Cadillac. The top three. It's going to be a really tasty hyperpole, which comes at 8 o'clock local time, when the temperature might be dropping, when the lap times might be even faster. Robert Kubica has taken over number 83. This car was good early on in the session. It's now fourth. It's on an out lap, but Kubica, he's looking quick. Through the Porsche curves he will come. Bit of traffic up the road. He didn't seem to be getting back on the throttle quite so early there, but let's see whether he's just being mindful of the traffic up the road. We've got Custodio Toledo under investigation for a pit stop infringement, and Kubica's car looking very, very skittish.
Yeah, a bit of oversteer there. That's the thing, when you turn into that karting corner. Okay, yeah, we're hearing he's got internal vibrations within the car, but quite a snappy oversteer car. Karting corner is probably the worst corner for it, because the camber's off there. So as you turn into the left-hander, the rear naturally tries to come around on you, and you can see it, you know, in the complex with many other cars. But in that instance, he had a big snap of oversteer.
Did indeed, and he's going to do one more lap, we understand, to evaluate it, and then possibly bring it into the pit lane, because they've got to get that cured, Johnny, before they go in a hyperpole. They can't have that sort of Damocletian problem hanging over them. It's got to be cured now.
Yeah, it's a worry for the team. You know, it's important to qualify well, and they'll be going through the motions to try and make sure they can rectify that for later on as well. But it looks, in general, the track grip is definitely a bit lower at the moment. You know, we've seen quite a few slides through turn 2, Dunlop on the entry, and yeah, hopefully the track will improve towards hyperpole later on, but definitely a bit lower over for the this morning's rain.
Getting quite a few drivers under investigation now for pit stop infringements. Might be speeding. We'll wait and see what the stewards come out with. They're going to be busy, I think, into the evening with
Could be
this
more
session.
than one mechanic over
absolutely,
the line.
absolutely.
You know, all these little things.
Or a loose wheel that was not put on the floor properly, or myriad things, yeah.
There was quite a few speedings in Spa, actually, even at 61 kilometres an hour. So 1k over, and you're getting fined for that, and your name goes down on the list.
Right, so fuel in, tyres changed on number 8 Toyota. Yeah, there are race directors that say to the teams, look, if it's 60 kilometres an hour, don't set it at 60, set it at 59.9 and be safe, because you're just ever so slightly over. Johnny, there's no argument. Over is over.
Yeah, and the drivers and engineers will try and push that boundary as much as they can in car, because you don't want to give anything away, especially in the pit lane, but more so on their fuel course shell or a slow zone. So, but the rule is the rule, you can't be over. So yeah, everyone will still be.
All right, Toyota number 8 goes back out. This car picked up a little bit of damage late on yesterday, but it has exited the pit lane now with Brendan Hartley at the wheel of it, and 11th is where you find it in the times. 20 minutes to go then. The last 20 minutes of free practice before hyperpole. There's another hour in the darkness, 11 o'clock till midnight local time. And that's the final bit of nighttime running. That's not going to be chasing a time. That's purely set up. It's purely getting drivers that maybe didn't do the requisite 5 laps last night through the process. So it'll be a totally different feel to the session. But right now, this just feels a lot more competitive than it did half an hour ago.
Yeah, as we approach the end of the session, we've talked about the next time the cars are on track will be hyperpole, so they've got to get their qualifying driver in, hopefully maybe get a set of tyres on it, dial down the setup, so that earlier in this session they probably would have worked on the race setup, but now they've got to work on the qualifying setup. And of course some cars didn't make it in. This car obviously is in the 50 car, but Brendan Hartley was the only Toyota to make it in. The sister car didn't make it in. So we've got quite a few surprises happened yesterday, and I'm kind of hoping there'll be a few more surprises later on today, and we'll get some cars that maybe you wouldn't expect to be right up the front be there, you know?
Yeah, the number 7 Toyota, just to sort of finish the story, number 7 Nick de Vries was saying yesterday that on one lap he had a yellow flag and therefore had to slow, and on his other lap he encountered Mick Schumacher's Alpine doing something order to chicane and he had to lift, and really there were 2 laps in the tyre, so he just never got another opportunity to do a lap time. So yeah, frustration, but at least they think they know why. Down the pit road then comes number 50, the Ferrari then comes to its box. Nicholas Nielsen brings it in. Winner last year. Miguel Molina, Antonio Fuoco are the other two drivers. Just like last year, there's going to be a driver change then as this team starts now to prepare itself quite unabashed for the hyperpole session. And
so
Antonio Fuoco.
You've got to assume that that's your qualifying driver there, just getting into the car for the last 17, almost 18 minutes.
Yeah, Antonio Fuoco, now the single-seater gun turned GT racer, then hypercar racer. Fuoco, or Fire, to translate it, really is a live wire. And we've talked about Kevin S, Johnny, as somebody that you always sit up and take notice of. Antonio Fuoco is a bit the same. He's never dull.
Definitely not. It wasn't in Imola, was he? It's a great scrap between him and Buemi. But yeah, he's very...
you want to see the stewards room afterwards.
But yeah, he could definitely turn it on. And obviously he's one of the guys that they will strap in later on potentially for qualifying.
Looking quickly at 18 in LMP2, it was Andre Lotterer when we last looked at the car, and Jamie Chadwick has taken it over. When Peter makes that reference, you should have seen the stewards room. He knows what he speaks, because you've been involved with driving standards advising, haven't you, on occasions this year?
I have, yes. Having the weekend, I want to spend the time here with you, David and Johnny, for this weekend, but should be probably back in Sao Paulo, back in the room with not many windows and looking at videos of misdemeanors.
Do you actually get to watch the race, or are you constantly looking at just isolated incidents? You probably never get the time to sit back and actually watch the race as a whole, do you?
It all depends on how many things happen. So in Spa, a lot of things happen. I think it was like 63 decisions were made.
Crikey. You get paid per decision, do you?
I wish. So some of those things are basic things, like I was talking about, someone doing 61 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Sorry, kilometers an hour. But there is so much going on at every race, and everything has to be looked at and be fair, and we're trying to get continuity in the rules, and that whenever anyone sitting at home sees something happen on track, there's a reason why a decision's made in a certain way, and it's made universally across all the races. But of course, not all incidents are the same, so you've got to use your head as well.
Let us quickly head back to the pit lane. Bruce Joanni has more news for us. Bruce?
Yes, I'm in the pit lane in front of the 101 Cadillac WTR. As you may know, they had to change an engine earlier, which is common here in Le Mans. You change the engine in the gearbox to put something fresh before the race starts. They decided to do that a little bit early, and they did that change in those last 2 hours. And Ricky Taylor is about to go and do a couple of installation laps just to check that everything's fine with the car, and then the car will be ready for quali.
Fantastic. All right, thanks, Bruce. That car 18th, so it's not at the bottom of its class, even though it's spent a lot of time in the pit lane. 15 more minutes to go. Jamie Chadwick, you're on board with them. GT4 champion in British GT a good few years ago, thanks to the efforts of Ross Gunn, who was their co-driver, and the quicker of the two. Ross, the more experienced GT driver then, but Jamie Chadwick has made a name for herself in single-seater racing with the all-female W Series titles won, and then racing single-seaters in America. But I think a sports car career is what she wants to really focus on next, and she can do a lot worse this weekend, can't she, than learn from Andre Lotterer.
Absolutely, one of the most experienced guys out there, triple Le Mans winner in his Audi, and then went on to race with Porsche as well. So, yeah, as we talked about, quite different for him to be in this situation. But I think given the chance to be here, being a P2 car, he's obviously grabbed that chance and really enjoying his time here.
And Johnny, Jamie Chadwick has looked impressive in the European Le Mans Series races so far this year.
Yeah, it's got a great start to her campaign in sports car, especially in prototype stuff, winning overall and leading the championship as well. So the thing that I heard last night was she struggled a little bit with the darkness round here, just to adapt more, not with driving the car herself, more the traffic management of who's behind with the lights.
Yeah.
And with the team, hopefully she'll get a bit more running this evening to adapt to that. But Jamie will adapt quite quickly, and just gathering experience. But she is the perfect teacher in Andre for this weekend for that,
But again, she's a rookie to Le Mans. She's in her first season of sports car racing. This is going to be the first time there's been any night racing for her. First time you've got a class that's quicker, because in the LMS, LMP2 is the top class. Now, like you were saying, Peter, about Andre Lotterer, so Jamie's got to adapt to faster cars come tanking by as well.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot to learn in not really that much time.
Correct. She has done Nürburgring 24 hours,
okay.
so she has experienced a night race, and I don't think she was in the fastest car there, or even a GT3 car. So she's, you know, she's very experienced really, and will adapt.
From Pereira under investigation for pit lane speed. We've got just under 13 minutes to go. So, quick recap of the order then. It is in hypercar, Porsche number 5 topping the time. Julien Andlauer ahead then of 51 Ferrari of James Collado. Third in hypercar is 38 Cadillac of Al Bamba at the wheel of it. These aren't the drivers that have done the times necessarily. They're the driver now. Fourth is 83 Ferrari Robert Kubica. Fifth is BMW 20 of Robin Frins. And then sixth is 311 Cadillac of Jack Aitken. Getting a replay here of a troubled 28 out of LMP2. That's the Paul Lafargue Job van Aert at three-wheeler that he shares with Sebastian Alvarez. And a fine time to leave me loose wheel. Into the gravel it goes. Does it stand upright? Not quite. It's going to sit itself down.
That will not go down well with the steward's office either, if that was not attached properly.
It's done well to last as long as it has, if it has been put on the pits, or if it's been hit a curb or come off through an issue. But
yeah, because that wasn't an outlap, so strange one that. But yeah, you're right, the officials won't like a wheel parting company. Good job it was on its own, and there was no more damage other than the wheel making its way to the barrier into the gravel trap. What's impressive is how the car's able to come back on three wheels with barely a scratch.
I'm sure there's a few scratches underneath that we can't see.
But yeah, I mean, it's not taken bodywork with it when the wheels come off, has it? It's just disappeared. However, you can tell there's been some sort of breakage, because otherwise they'd put a wheel on and send him back out. And the team is going to be looked at for an unsafe release with that wheel coming off. But you're right, it did well, Johnny, to hang on as long as it did, because it was almost at the end of the lap. Right, Eduardo Barrichello has a word with Dad. And there, Aston Martin, the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, has now got Valentin Asclot behind the wheel and is fourth in class. He's just taken it out. Oh, we're going to have a slow zone, which might be to go and retrieve the wheel.
I'm sure it is, yeah. Where was that exactly?
Porsche Curves.
Porsche Curves, yeah. Ah, that's why it wasn't so the car was okay, because it didn't have far to come back.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. But a really fast part of the racetrack, you don't want to be losing wheels anywhere, but certainly not there.
I think you would have got a good indication that it was on its way and managed to get the speed off.
Yeah, well, there is the reason that we're going to have a slow zone, so somebody can dash out and collect that wheel. And there is the car in question being looked at to see why that wheel should have parted company. Was it finger trouble or was there a breakage? I don't think it was on an outlap, so it suggests that there was a breakage. And again, had it just been a wheel that wasn't attached, it probably would have, first of all, come off sooner, but when the car got back to the pit lane, they'd bang the wheel on and send it back out. There must be something more serious, otherwise it wouldn't be in its garage.
Yep, so the 28 LMP2 lost a wheel down at the Porsche Curves. They've put out a slow zone so the marshals can run out and get it, and then we'll go back in. That's the reason for the yellow flag. Less than 10 minutes to go.
To you, to me, and roll it out of the way. So the wheel rolled away. Right,
so the driver did report to the pits that he had a vibration, and so he kind of knew what was happening.
So all of this coming at the very end of the session, frustrating that team because they're losing mileage, losing track time. The other team's a bit frustrated because we've got a slow zone, but it shouldn't last long. As soon as those marshals are back on post, we can go green, and that's one of the beauties of slow zones. They're quick to instigate and quick to withdraw.
I think it's actually spoiled quite a few people who are doing quali sims just now, because you can see quite a few green splits in sector 1 and 2, but unfortunately with this slow zone now they can't complete the lap. So yeah, it's spoiled maybe a few people's preparation for later on, but yeah, all about safety here.
Indeed so. Right, that slow zone will be withdrawn imminently, and there, going through shot, is number 29, which is the TDS Racing entry of Rodrigo Sales, Matthias Besch, and former British Formula 3 champion Clement Novalak. heading towards the Ford chicane. Still, that slow zone exists, but once you're out of it, of course, you can go at a proper pace once again. And the slow zone is going to end in about 20 seconds time. Right, 8 more minutes, and Bruce Journey, more news for us from the pits.
Yes, I don't know if you've seen, but the car 83 came in a little bit earlier, and they've started to work on the car. They have the front right assembly that seems to be a little bit wobbly, and they have to work on the car to make sure the car will be ready for quali. So that's not a great news for a very competitive car.
No, you're right. Thanks, Bruce. I think we did hear some radio traffic, didn't we, about that car either oscillating or vibrating at the front. So, yeah, they've got to get that dialed out. They've not got much time.
Yeah, that was the big snap at karting corner for Robert Kubica. The car just looked very difficult to drive, so obviously some work to do in the next 7 or so minutes, and then they've got the break time in between, but the next lap in that car will be the out lap for the qualifying.
Yeah, they're going to have to be absolutely on it when they go back out again. Right, so here down towards the chicane comes the LMP2 traffic. Right, on board here with the Manthey First Form car. Richard Leeks at the wheel of the Porsche, which has now gone top in LMGT3. LMGT3 has been pretty competitive all evening, hasn't it? Because we've had quite a lot of the top times, if you like, traded and different brands all up there.
Yeah, there's been quite a few drivers cycling through, and it looks like the Porsche's put a good lap down with the silver driver earlier on, and Richard Leeks here is just having a run on a fresh tyre to finish the session off.
Yeah, it's so good to see. It seems like we've got all the different manufacturers pretty much pegged to the same level, which means that they will be competitive during the race. And I think for all of us, it's nice to see. You know, it's never nice to see one manufacturer just run away with it. So it looks like they're all well pegged together, and it's going to be a good race.
We've got Ryan Hardwick there, who's been a regular in WEC as well as in Asian Le Mans in the winter. Former former Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion in North America. Right, with 5.5 minutes on the clock, Richard Leeks presses on, and just looking to see, did 88 go back out? Yes, 88 Mustang that did very, very little lappery early on did finally get a time, and there in replay, rather slow BMW getting out of the way, and then, am I right? No, Cadillac, not BMW, forgive me, Cadillac getting a wheel onto the dirt.
The wheel off. It could be on fresh tyres on a prep lap, and that's why he's just trying to build the tyre pressures and temperatures and stay out of the way.
Right, 4.5 on the clock. The fastest car in the session, number 5 Porsche, currently sitting in the pit lane. So very shortly they're going to run out of time for it to be worthwhile even going back out if they are planning on doing that. But it's been a really interesting session, and it's got ever more pacey, as we were suggesting it would, with people starting to think about Hyperpole and getting the cars set up for that. And we are at 20 to 6 local time. Hyperpole starts at 8 o'clock, so a couple of hours yet. Temperature's going to be a little different.
Yeah, it should probably obviously cool down a little bit as we progress the evening, which is good for the tyre, to be fair. It might take a little bit longer to warm it up, but it usually stays. Once the pressure's up and the temperature's up, it stays under the car a bit more. But they might then be in the decision, well, do we take soft tyres, do we take medium tyres? There's going to be that tyre window, and they normally cross over between the soft and the medium. And if you're somewhere in the middle, then you might find some cars being on the soft and some being in the middle on the medium tyre.
Sean Gallard having a real fight with the McLaren there, wasn't he? He was deep into the corner, he was up the curb. That did not look a compliant car, Johnny.
Yeah, it looked quite loose on the way into Indy there, and a big correction on the way through, and then on braking as well. So, yeah, he could be still, you know, he could be running on a older set of tyres just now. But yeah, it did look a handful, really. It looks like quite a few have put tyres on now on hypercar. Will Stevens has gone P2. He's on his best middle split here. So it looks like the Cadillac crew of Jota for both cars look like they're putting a new tyre on.
Right, let's do a little bit of eavesdropping as we ride with Sean Gallard.
A little bit fast into both the chicanes there, Sean. Just bring it back a little bit and prep the exit.
And the voice you've heard is not the driver, but it's his driver coach. It's David Pittard, who's been a winner of the Nürburgring 24 Hours and who has been a very, very good GT racer and brought on board to help the AMS, help the bronze drivers. I mean, Sean Gallard is not inexperienced. That's in single-seater terms. He's done, you know, 2 or 3 years now of GT racing. But David Pittard, much underrated British driver, will be... I think we heard yesterday, quite forceful, quite brutal in some of his assessments, but all for the greater good.
Yeah, he'll have live telemetry. They'll have a bit of a baseline of a pro as a reference, and then he'll be looking at that live data and feeding that back to all the drivers. But it looks like maybe Sean's just pushing a bit too hard for the track conditions just now and overdriving the car, so it's great to get that feedback quite instant from David. And he's sort of just trying to make him as clean and as good as he can on track.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, David Pittard, much underrated British driver, made a real name for himself by specialising at the Nordschleife. Right, this is another of the ex-Grand Prix racers that we've got in the entry, Will Stevens, working his way through traffic. Antares is under investigation for track limit offences, and Will Stevens makes his way down towards the chicane. We've got 90 seconds on the clock as of now, so session almost at an end. And Will Stevens might just get away with this, but I suspect the checkered flag will greet him when he comes out of the Ford chicane at the end of this lap. So Porsche, Cadillac, Ferrari, BMW is the top 6. And if you're wondering what to do later on, make sure you are with us for Hyperpole. It's going to be really, really good, no question about it. Right, there is 51, James Collado, going through Indianapolis once again. Right, so to Arnage goes James Collado. He's not going to be improving on this lap, that's for sure. And you heard David Pittard talking to Sean Gallard about track limits. Well, Sean's back under investigation. Not for the first time, in fact, is that car under investigation, because it had to serve a 5-minute stop-go early on in the session for track limit offences, did the Galile, Darren Lung and Marino Sato McLaren. Right, this is James Collado's view. He's certainly pushing on.
So if Sean Gallard has 6 track limits, there's a fair chance he will not start the hyperpole for 5 minutes. While all the other cars drive around, he might not get out on track because they'll give him basically a stop penalty before the session begins.
Right, checkered flag is out as the session comes to an end, and a lot of work has been done on number 5. Now, this is the car that's fastest, so they got that really good lap time in. We saw it have a bit of a rattle over the curb, but ever since, it has spent the time in the garage. Now, is that because the team is happy, the pace is there, and they can now start to prepare for Hyperpole, or do we think there's something a bit more sinister?
It looks pretty calm in the garage. Yeah. It looks like everything's under control. It's not like anyone's panicking. So maybe they're ahead of the schedule in terms of where they need to be, and they've done what they needed to do. And all of a sudden, they're pretty happy to keep the car in the box and look at some data quite early towards qualifying.
So an array of track limits coming now, thick and fast. Another for car 48, driver Gray. I think, yeah, seeing as the session's finished on the 5th limit, you generally are going to get some kind of penalty, aren't you? A stop and go. So that's at least 3 drivers now I've seen that potentially will, if they are in the hyperpole, then they're not going to be able to start it quite on time.
Yeah, there's no early dinner for the stewards. They've got a lot to look at, I think, at the end of this, with the penalties that may need to be applied appropriately for later on. 27, another of the Aston Martins then, the Heart of Racing entry. This is Ian James, Zach Robichon and Mathieu Drudy, winner of last year's 24 Hours of Spa. Zach Robichon, the Canadian driver, at the wheel of that car. And in replay, the Kessel Ferrari goes way, way, way off the racetrack.
And you could be pretty glad that there was no wall close.
Just thinking it didn't slow down
as you
much.
came in.
Threads the eye of the needle through the run-off tarmac and past all the sponsor markings and back onto the circuit. So getting away with that, that was Daniel Serra at the wheel of it.
Pretty experienced GT driver. What, 2-3 wins round here?
That's right, yeah. So he knows what he's doing, but a little mistake. But he made the best out of that. He didn't really scrub off any speed, didn't waste any time.
Yeah, I think the rule of thumb there is if you can, you will go round the perimeter road and then rejoin if it is safe to do so. So he's done the right thing, but yeah, quite a quick off, to be fair.
And nothing to see here.
Yes.
No, exactly. Twice a winner, Daniel Serra in Aston Martins. This is El Bamba, who is also twice a winner, but that's outright, bringing the Hertz Team Toyota Cadillac back to the pit lane. Of course, for many years associated with Porsches, not only in terms of his Le Mans wins, but also winning in one make championships, but these days away from the Porsche fold. And the Cadillacs might be a big ask for a win, but you get the feeling they're going to be a much bigger player than last year.
Yeah, both cars look really strong, especially Jota cars just now, second and third. Definitely made a big improvement from last year. But yeah, I mean, the Porsche Penske number 5 lap time is very competitive from what they've done earlier, you know, to have a 8/10 margin just now. But I don't think everyone's shown their hand in terms of had a run or had a clean run with the right driver in the car towards the end of the session here.
Yeah, talking of a clean run, of course, Hyperpole with that knockout system means that the track is going to be calmer and quieter for you. Interesting as well to see that some of the teams, even as they take the flag, still push on that in-lap to bring warm tyre data back in for, in hypercar terms here, the Michelin engineers. So it is Porsche then that tops the times at the end of FP3. From Cadillac, second and third. El Bamba's car getting itself to second at the very end. So the best lap the car did on the very last lap of the session, second fastest then. So Porsche, Cadillac, Cadillac, Ferrari, Ferrari, BMW, Porsche, Cadillac, Ferrari, BMW, the top 10. If you're thinking, Toyota here this year, yeah, but 11th and 14th. Problems, lack of pace, keeping their powder dry, working to a programme. Well, we'll find out in Hyperpole, won't we? But you wouldn't necessarily put money on the Toyotas being that far down.
All comes down to race pace, doesn't it?
True,
you know, you don't win the race in Hyperpole, but at the end of 24 hours, you've got to be there, and they were there last year till very nearly the end when was it Hirakawa, or am I thinking the year before?
I thought Buemi got turned around, didn't he? Or was it Brendan Hartley at Mulsanne Corner? There was an incident which certainly turned. Well, I think it was Buemi.
But anyway, certainly the last 2 years, Toyota have been right there at the end of the race, and obviously they'll be hoping for the same again. They generally have the reliability and the consistency in the car over a race stint, so they might not have the ultimate qualifying pace now, but hopefully for them, they've got the race pace.
And they've also got the experience of the processes of what to do in the pits and what not to do, of, you know, the best ways of not losing time. And experienced drivers, Johnny, that have been around here, they know what to do in slow zones, how to treat pit stops, for example.
It's just the execution. They just know exactly how to execute the end goal, which is to get to the end as fast as possible, and every person in their own department, whether it's mechanics, drivers or team, has to be on top form.
So let's look at the top 10 then. It is Porsche, Cadillac, Cadillac, Ferrari, Ferrari, BMW, Porsche, Cadillac, Ferrari and BMW behind that. There you've got the 11th to 20th order. Hypercars lock out the top 21, the troubled 93 Peugeot being at the bottom of Hypercar with that hydraulic failure. In LMP2, top time going the way of the TDS Racing entry, which is also therefore the quickest in Pro-Am from United Autosports from Inter-Europol competition. And then in LMGT3, the Heart of Racing team, Aston, right at the very end as well. Zach Robichon on his last lap going fastest ahead of Richard Lietz and then Finn Gersitz in the Lexus, third in the times. Busy pit lane, teams bringing the cars back, and in some cases they might do another practice pit stop. You know, the session doesn't necessarily end when the checkered flag goes out, does it? There are still things you can do and learn.
Yeah, the teams all have an older set of tyres ready to be put on the car and just try and do another full pit stop or potentially even another driver change, a live situation really to practice that procedure. So yeah, it doesn't really finish as the checker flag drops for the team.
Oh, sure. The Goodyear blimp looks down over the circuit. Goodyear providing the tyres in LMP2 and LM GT3. And the Goodyear airship has been a focal point above many a motorsport venues in 100 years of it this year. So another anniversary to celebrate. Maybe we can have an anniversary of anniversaries one year. And there's that practice pit stop that we were talking about. So Hertz Team Jota brings the car in, but there's still work that you can do on 38. Earl Bamber brought the car in, and Earl, along with Sebastian Bourdais and Jenson Button, in a really good place now. Iron Links bring one of the Mercedes in. Brand new cars for the weekend, painted, not wrapped. And then poor old Stephen Grove had that mighty moment yesterday. But the Groves have at least now done some laps. They've done some times. I'm not sure how much time Lucas Stoltz has had in the car, but perhaps he's the one that least needs the time. OK, he's new to Le Mans as well, but he does know that car inside out. He'll probably get familiar with everything faster than the father and son Grove partnership. But as we said earlier on in the session tonight in the Dart, they've all got to do 5 laps. Now, that was the same regulation yesterday, but they had 2 hours. Tonight, they only got 1 hour, so they have to crack on.
Yep, that is the case then. As we are getting ready, we'll be underway later on here on JB Motorsports for Hyper Pole. If you're watching us live, you'll be redirected to that stream here on YouTube, getting underway at 18:45. Join us for the action. It is Julian Andlauer and the Porsche Penske squad who top the board. What a fantastic session. We'll see you later on. Take care. Bye-bye.